Hello. Hello. All right, continuing the stream today. This morning we've been building a we've been building a well, we've been building a dashboard to track the way the right here agent works. So let me show you that. I'm not. So the right here agent is it's a pretty recent paper about recursive task decomposition to write things. I highly recommend trying it out. I highly recommend studying the paper. And the source code is on GitHub. It's the closest I've seen to being like a high quality, deep research clone. And I wanted to understand all of this more. I wanted to get into agents recently. I'm on vacation, so I'm like vibe coding all the time because that's how it is. Sadly, the weather's too nice. So I feel a little bit bad programming in here. But this morning, so I've been working on this for like a week now. And this morning, I wanted to work on the React UI that I've been working on. However, struggled a little bit getting my server running. And the way the architecture works is that, let me see, I think there's actually some kind of graph that it was able to generate. So let's look at the long-term document. And we can look at the architecture of the server here. We do have an agent component that sends events over the event bus, which goes to Redis. And then we have like a whole kind of crazy thing. I don't know what it built here. We have a WebSocket server in Python that serves requests over WebSocket to the browser UI. And this thing now, what we built this morning, actually persists the events to a database so that they can be reloaded in the future, and I don't need to run the agent all the time. And we did that. We had like a couple of issues. There was actually a garbage collection bug where the Redis listener would get garbage collected and would just like fail, and thus, as long as you were like sending events pretty quickly, it would work. But if you stopped doing that, the whole thing stopped working. So we spent a bunch of time working on that, and it's a sign of like when you don't exactly know what you were building, because I actually didn't care much about this WebSocket part, didn't really care about it. What I'm doing this for is really to understand the agent components over there, and all the rest is kind of like scaffolding and tooling to be able to do that with different planning agents and working on the UI, right? But it turns out that the WebSocket server is a pretty important component in all of it. And I don't know Python. I don't care about learning Python. I worked a lot in Python, right? Like I just have like a very complicated relationship with it. So this morning, instead of working on the UI, we worked on the WebSocket server. And now is maybe the time to start looking at, can I actually start this server and reload the last events? Because that we actually didn't store that. And I think in terms of our code here, I think we have an environment variable that allows us to reload the last session, but I don't think we have in server main, which is where a server gets started, I don't think we have a flag for that. So what we're going to do is the first little vibe code, and this is going, I mean, I don't know if you can call it vibe code, but in this case, I really don't need more than Sonnet 3.5, is add a, so what other things could we add flags for? We could add flags for, so we have Redis URL, we have event stream name, we have SQLite data path, so that's definitely one. We have the port, and we have all of these little arguments here that could be passed by forwards, right? Like add flags for the constants that don't have any to server main. And this is probably already over-engineered as a prompt. I think I can probably do this. So I'm going to show a little bit how I got better at prompt engineering, right? I try to be as terse as possible in my prompts, because that allows me then to like have a bigger impact with every little word that I write, right? Like LLMs react strongly to words because that's how they work. So if I really start to do things minimally, and obviously there's going to be a lot of constants in here, a lot of, not constants, there's going to be a lot of tokens here. But really my prompt is here, and then depending on whatever cursor does, and it's hard to know what it does because it's going to take my cursor rules, it's going to do blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what the importance of this sentence is going to be, but it seems to be fairly well controlled, that it knows, okay, those are the instructions. All the rest is like kind of additional data. And I think if I just put these 4 words here, it will probably do the right thing, right? Here the agent kicks in, right? It's going to start finding things here. It's going to find these 2 flags that we were missing, and then it's going to add them. So no surprise there. And what you can start doing when you approach prompting like this, making it minimal, right? Like you can retry, you can regenerate, because this has to be robust under all these things. You can also ask for manual, because I already have the 2 files. And then you can try, like, oh, is it able to add flags? Will this do something? What will it do? There's a good chance, I think, that Sonnet is going to be clever enough to do that. But I'm not sure. It's going to do logging, database path, and session reload, right? And so it's going to add reload last session. It's going to add the log level, which is great, actually. So I didn't over-constrain it, and it added important things. And so, you know, that's like kind of enough for me. Like, I like that. And then, did it apply them? So how does the apply work here? So the manual mode, like all of this stuff is kind of broken. And here you can see this actually is much more efficient than turning it into agent mode. And so if you know your models well, you can toggle between these modes pretty quickly. And it's annoying that like they keep breaking. They keep breaking at times, because Cursor starts, like, no one uses manual mode anymore, I think. And so these things, like, it's annoying. I want to try to use some open source. So here you can see 2 words, right? Or if you consider the files, you know, I have to reference the files, so it's like 4 words. And then you can muck about. You can do, is this enough, right? It probably is for Sonnet, right? But here I have the file modified, so actually I'm cheating here, so whatever. So we do have now the flags that we were missing, and now I can go back and look at the help flags, and then we're going to do reload session, and it will reload the session. And hopefully, if I go to localhost 5173, it will hopefully reload all the events. It didn't, because, and this is maybe a bug here, we can see it has no events. It has no graphs. So this might be something to look at, right? Like, it wasn't able to load the last session. Reload last session was false. So it means something in our flags is wrong, right? And this might very well be that it's going to, in our WS server, it's going to do reload last session, latest session, false, lower is equal to true. That is very interesting. So I wonder, I think OS get env doesn't match the OS environment, right? So in this case, I'm going to go back to agent mode because it just works better. As you've seen, it's beta able to add flags. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a config object for the server and then pass that to running the server, right? So I'm going to do create config struct to pass server arguments to the main and handle all environments and flags in WS server. And as you've seen before, no, in server main. As you've seen before, this I could probably cut back on like half of the tokens here or even more. I don't care. I'm going to over-specify things a little bit. I have something in mind. Sometimes it's good to specify exactly what you want. Sometimes it's not. I'm not sure what keeps like searching for all of this when I specifically reference the files. So anyway, this is pretty much exactly what I wanted. And Sonnet is pretty nice at doing like these little refactoring things, which adds like a class method and adds like a get UI URL. Really pleasant to work with. At like this file level, I find Sonnet 3.5 really, really cool to use. Sonnet 3.7 is a little bit too brutal if you don't have like a either you have to overprompt it to not do too much, which is annoying, or you can leverage its like manic, refactoring code writing when you decompose your problem in like good spots. So if I have a UI to build and I have a good API for the UI, then I just said like make everything that you can out of this UI, add all cool features, but don't modify the API, right? So now we should have a pretty clean result here. And probably this will solve the bug that we had, right? And so here in the server, we have a Redis listener. And then I guess in the start, in the main, it does config to env, set environment variable for VS server. So that's not what we wanted. Because we do want to pass the object to here instead of using the environment, right? So pass the config to run server. And there's a possibility here that run server is used in multiple places. It's used in WS server as the main. And in fact, this is not something we should use because it's broken. And so that's how we're going to do it. While this is generating, I'm going to eat because I forgot to eat today. And I don't want to make weird noises on camera. So I'll be right back. Hey, Jojo, I hope you're still there. And thanks for joining. And yeah, I'm curious. Like, I mean, I live in my own little bubble because I obviously only spend time with people who program with AI. But yeah, interesting. Like, do you use Cursor? If you're still there. So let's see. Kind of lost track here. So in server main, it is hopefully adding the right stuff. Yeah, it's just passing in the config, right? Like this is pretty easy to accept. And then the next file, we remove the environment. That's pretty cool. Remove all this logging. And then, yeah, whatever. This has no attribute event stream. Oh, because it's optional. It shouldn't be optional, to be honest. So this is little stuff that I probably will just fix by hand. Like all of this is transient, right? Like bigger features I would actually handle pretty differently, and we'll see that as I get to it. Oh, so this is the weird thing where it's like where it has to be none, and then we might as well do, I don't know how clean all of this is here. I think this is good, the way I just did it. I think that is probably a better way of doing it in general. Although usually Sonnet is better than I am. I will fully have to admit, like at the small scale level, Sonnet's better, Sonnet 3.5 is better than I am. At the bigger app level, refactoring level, if prompted nicely and maybe having done a little bit of research on potential architectures, having Sonnet 3.7 actually lay out the refactor in detail, I have the same where I'm like, oh, holy shit, this thing is better than me. But it requires more guidance, right? Can easily like backfire. So if I do start this now with the reload session and I do the same curl, now I get the events. And if I reload my front-end app, I should have the list of events that we stored. The run started. If I do this, I should have See, this is, oh, no, we do have the LLM calls completed, right? Like this is 3 calls, and then we should have not much of an agent. So I do want to rerun my recursive backend to record a new run, and then actually trigger it all the way to actually having a graph. So if we see we have a new run that got started, and we have a step that got started, and now before I do the LLM call, I have my debugger just so I can keep track of how many I do. And we see all these events happening here. And so a ton of nodes got created. And I think if I stop the server and restart the server and reload the session, hopefully I get back my graph, right? Like we see the previous run got removed, and then the graph hasn't been created. So that is a bug, right? I am curious to see if the server side has recreated the graph. It hasn't recreated the graph. So that is indeed an issue, and we're going to debug this next. Yeah, Yax, we live in a bubble. I think the majority of developers are still like doing things manually, which to me is, at this point, is kind of mind blowing. I don't think I'll get to, dude. Like I had a doctor's appointment, and I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I had, right? Like I saw a tweet, and it's a project that I had like attempted multiple times. It was like, I can use my tree sitter parser, get the symbols, but then the problem with tree sitter is like finding where these symbols are referenced somewhere else, right? But so that's what language server protocol is for. So I just like asked Manus, like, hey, use my tree sitter library, parse Go files, run the Go language server on them, and then give me all the references as a JSON. And $3 later, man, $3 later, then I started adding like all kinds of features, I think here. I don't remember, but like if you look at the test output JSON, this is kind of like what it's able to do now. And this cost me $3.50, which if I rate it, $2.50, right? I mean, I'm sure this is subsidized and stuff, but like this is something I wanted to build for like fucking forever. I went to doctor's appointment, and now I have it. Like I don't, my brain is not able to cope with that, to be honest, so I don't care. Anyway, we do have a commit to do here, because we added something significant, which is where we added add command line flag to reload last session, right? And one of the issues that we have now, and this is maybe something where I will add, I will start with Gemini. I'm going to try something a little bit different. So the thing that I've been doing lately is using Sonnet or GPT-4o to explore the context needed to solve a task, just to fill the context window, right? Like not not solve the task per se, but just fill the context window, then switch to a reasoning model and say like, oh, now solve this tricky problem and do it. I'm going to go straight to Gemini 2.5 and then just see what it does. And you guys know by now that I like Gemini 2.5 because of the traces. So I'm going to load the long-term document, which describes a whole event logging systems. And when reloading latest session in WS server, the graph doesn't get reconstructed. Why is that? And also, I think we added storing the graph to disk to SQLite. So we'll see. So because I added 2 ways of doing this, and I think that might be a little bit confusing as well. It's confusing for me too, which is when events come in, right? Like just for me to show you, when these events come in, some of them are like, you know, node added, node status changed, node, all of these. And it looks like actually it looks like there's events missing actually. There's edge added has been missing. So those are things that maybe we should look at a little bit more closely. And here, I don't know if it's loading the whole thing. The graph state manager logic, process events, maybe a process events. So fetching all the events from the SQLite. So I don't know if it has loaded the files, right? Because yeah, this doesn't match the thing over here. So this is why I like going with Sonnet first. Or maybe it's like first read all the relevant files as documented in 04. Then think hard about how the graph is computed, loaded by WS Server. And computed/loaded is a very conscious prompt engineering decision of mine, because I know there's these two paths. So I'm going to mention both and see just what the thinking trace is going to do. And then passed on to the front end. It seems that some events are actually not saved to the DB when received. For example, edge added. So maybe that's the issue, right? Like, so now I'm filling the context already with a lot of things. And I think Gemini is able to interleave tool calling with thinking traces. So here we can see it has a much shorter thinking trace because it knows, oh, I should read these files, right? So that's the first thinking step that I kind of indicate is like, load this long-term document that describes the entire event logging system and references all the files, right? Like this is a document I put a lot of care in to always reference like the right stuff. And then once it has loaded that, have it like analyze the whole thing. And here it stopped, right? So this is why I often like use Sonnet 3.5 is because Gemini is like prone to stopping. And I really trust like 3.5 to do this. So I'm going to restart, have 3.5, load all of these things. And I'm actually going to, well, we'll see how it does it, right? Right, so this is the issue that I was suggesting. And you can see how I work, right? Like I do have my coding brain, my software engineering experience is like kind of there and it tells me like, events are missing. That was kind of a gut feeling. I'm, however, not putting in the detailed effort to figure it out. At this point, I can pass it on and it saves me, it makes me stay in the vibey mode where I actually just like rely on my gut feeling. Yeah. So not all graph things are handled. The graph state manager correctly processes them, replays them through both state managers. The issue has to be that some critical graph building events are not being properly stored in a database while they're correctly processed in real time. So I'm adding these handlers to this, and then I'm going to stay with Claude 3.5 Sonnet because the task is so fairly easy, and I don't want like any of the Gemini has the issue that the tool calling like kind of fails 80% of the time, except when I switch to Max, and then it always works. So who knows? And in here, I don't need all of that, right? Like the context window doesn't need to be very big, so 3.5 will work. And then just like let it go. The thing that bugs me, the thing that bugs me with 3.5 though, is I can't see it streaming. And that bugs the hell out of me because it basically makes me lose time or makes me lose focus, right? Like this was like what, 30 seconds? Enough for my brain to be like, I'm bored, I want to do something else. But also I'll sometimes like wait like a minute and I'll be like, yeah, from the first 2 lines, I could have told you that this is wrong. And then I waste all of this time, right? So those are good. It does the same kind of mistake, which is funny because I had to fix this before where I would have to fix the error handling. I disabled auto-linting fixing. Here it was streaming the updates. That's so funny. And then I'll update git latest run events. This is pretty funny. So this guy here, it would kind of be able to auto fix it in some way. And here it's starting to do a little bit too much for my taste. The diffs still look decent, right? But I'm going to look at this pretty closely because I think it's breaking stuff here. Or it's like really insisting on not doing error handling. Add new tables for graph relationships. Okay, well, why not? I'm not sure this really needs all of it to be stored. Handle plan received, insert and graph plans, graph memberships. I don't know what that means, right? So I'm not sure if all of this makes sense, and I kind of want to have a thinking agent go over it and verify it. Yeah, this is kind of, I mean, this is kind of like dodgy code. And at this point, I'm like, how long do I want to kind of handle all of this? And it's, yeah, it's doing all of this weird stuff. It kind of looks decent, right? But before we continue, I'm actually going to go, why not use 3.7 Sonnet Max? How expensive is it per tool use? I'm going to turn on thinking. Think really hard about if this is the right approach. I'm curious about these additional tables and how would these tables be used when loading in the future, right? Think really hard. And actually, no, I'm going to go with Gemini 2.5 Pro Max because I like the thinking traces better. So I want something interesting to read. And this is a way for me, when the thinking model is used, this is something that allows me to bridge this like 30-second gap where my brain just goes like, so here I have something to read. It teaches me about the code base. It's kind of fun. It is like pair programming with a really senior programmer that's really, really fast and knows everything about the code base, which is great, right? Like, sorry. And it also feels that I'm making steady progress, if not on the code, at least in my understanding of the code base, which is like what I want to spend my workday doing, right? It's like my workday is not about yeeting out code as fast as possible. It's about like over time building up a decent code base, which means I need to understand what I'm building, and I need to do this like over and over and over because I have less friction going through these logs than if I were to do it by myself. So it takes longer for me to at least remember those things, because tomorrow I'll have forgotten all of this. So the current issue is simply replaying the events from the events table. Blah, blah, doesn't guarantee it. New tables. These tables aim to store snapshots or specific artifacts. Event handlers are handling all of this. Event ordering logic. To explicitly order events based on the event type before timestamp, hoping that this specific order allows the graph state manager to reconstruct the graph state correctly during replay. That's weird because the time ordering should be enough. Cons, redundancy. A lot of the information in the new tables is derivable from the nodes and edge tables, right? So that's the thing that I was worried about. Storing it separately adds redundancy. For example, graph membership stores node ID. And the cool thing about Gemini 2.5 is that it will actually be like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Like, it will make pretty good decisions where I'll also say like, yeah, I don't think this is a good idea. And then basically ask you like, are you sure you want to do this? Well, Sonnet 3.7 is going to be like, yeah, man, let's go. And then just like completely derail everything. So, because we already have views, right? And indeed adding 3 tables, I don't think is a good thing. The core issue is reconstructing state. I like the italic here. It still relies heavily on replaying events in a specific order. What if that order still isn't sufficient? No, that's not an issue actually. So the syncing stream is like not perfect, right? Obviously it's an LLM. It doesn't mean anything. It's just words that go well together. It doesn't use plan received, node added, or inner graph built. Doesn't actually help, that's right. Yeah, this is also weird, right? Like the complex case, I don't like it. Consider alternatives. Ensure core graphs events are stored and replayed correctly. Load state directly from nodes and tables. I don't think this is good. I want to have the events. So I hope that it's going to choose alternative 1. The proposed solution seems overly complex and doesn't align with how Graph State Manager actually reconstructs states. Alternative 1 is better. Alternative 2 seems most robust and straightforward. The events table remains crucial, so acknowledge the user's goal, explain why the blah, blah, blah. So now it's going to basically repeat what it's saying here, right? So these are redundant, is what it says. We can either replay versus reconstruct the state, relying on the complex case, a more direct and robust approach, loading state directly. And that's not the one I want, I think. So here I have to think a little bit, like, am I going to go with the solution that Gemini proposed, or am I going to go with the event replay? All right, so what does it recommend? Remove the graph memberships graph. I want to keep graph plans. Simplify get latest run event, yes. Add a load state from DB. Modify startup event to call blah, blah, get latest run graph. Ensure events manager still plays this. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say like keep graph plans. And then fix the linter error con. Yeah, so all the rest okay. So now I'm just going to have it execute that. So it did its thinking, right? It was like able to suggest 2 things that I intuitively from my, as a software engineer, I had like kind of in my head, but not as clearly mapped out, and especially not as detailedly mapped out, right? Like where I would say like this table doesn't have this field, doesn't have that. That's like really tedious to do for a human. It's like absolutely no problem for an LLM. In fact, that's like what LLMs are best at is it is like matching words that are literally words that need to be matched, right? But so here, I decided to go against what I would have done if I had been solo, which is like replaying the events, just because adding a second path to reload the state store is like something I separately have to debug. It's a parallel path, right? Like if I only have replaying the events, that's the same thing that happens at runtime anyway, so I know it works, so I don't need to worry about it. Here I have the second path, but then I'm going to leverage the fact that I have an LLM to probably do it correctly for me and deal with all these little fields and how they interplay and all of that, right? So we're going to look at that, and then this like crazy case SQL statement hopefully is going to vanish as well. So we're going to see what that does. And these are like kind of crazy diffs, to be honest. But it's not, it's like undoing the top level diff, right? And like here, cursor hangs when you do that, when the diff gets too crazy. So we're removing the graph builds, but we're keeping the graph plans, which is cool. Then I hope that we keep the events that were added. Those 2 are removed because I don't think we need them. And we can now go and just like kind of basically trust Gemini 2.5 Pro. In the worst case, we have everything like stored in Git, right? So this is one way of doing it, where what I did is had Sonnet 3.5, which is not the most clever of models, right? It's like at this point, it's like a year old. Well, like it's October. And it did indeed go into a direction that was like a little bit weird. And it like kind of like a mid-model size kind of things where it says like, I'm going to add tables like while I'm at it. So it's not the worst decision, but it's also like not a very clever one. And then I had a thinking model review it, especially a pretty good thinking model that will allow me to read the trace. And I did that because I was actually interested in reading this trace. I was like, okay, well, it seems to me that what Sonnet did is not great. but I also don't know enough about this code that I generated, but I still don't know enough about it. So I actually want to read what Gemini has to say, right? Another method that I could have done is like, oh, well, this looked a little bit off. Let's try go back here, and from here switch to, say, Gemini to actually do the implementation, and then hope that Gemini would have chosen a better pattern from the get-go. In this case, I consciously decided to continue the conversation, which I rarely do because I was interested in a thinking trace. If that makes sense. Like, this was a conscious decision. And then here, obviously, I could have gone back, which is what I usually do, and update the prompt or the document that I'm using to do this task. In this case, it's like kind of a one-off, so I wasn't really too interested in doing that. However, now that I'm accepting this and I'm going to be testing if this works, I'm not going to reload the session. And I'm going to rerun my backend to recreate a full graph, right? Going to reload this on the front end. Hopefully the front end. So here it's starting to get some events, I think. This should have 3 events. Yep. We should have no graph right now. Then if I let it run, it will have a couple of events. Hopefully the server doesn't crash. We have this graph. We have everything here that we wanted. So at least it's like reconstructing it properly on the front end. Now we can stop our server, right? Reload the latest session. And we should now, if I reload here, see the graph again. And we don't. So something is still broken. We are still not seeing these events that we saw before. I don't know if it actually reloaded the correct run is the other issue. I didn't look at the run ID. So here we have FBB52E01. Going to restart the backend process. Just make sure that it might not be loading the right run out of the backend. So we're going to rerun this. We're going to see the new run, which is 506. And interestingly, the node created here is nil. The step started is nil as well. And those were 2 things that were missing, right? So that might be a bug where, because the node created, the first one doesn't have the right ID, and because the node created doesn't have a node added to the graph, then that might be missing. And that's something that I already had in my to-do list as a bug, right? I don't know if this happens on every call, but that seems like the first thing that we should maybe fix. So I'm going to restart the server without the main. I'm going to delete everything in my database. I'm actually going to delete the database entirely. And I'm going to restart this guy. And I'm going to restart my backend server, kind of going to see what this guy does, right? So here we have the issue, the step started, the first step started, and the first node created have a run ID of not available. And that's maybe something that I could track out by hand, because I'm not sure if the model is going to quickly find it, but also I could do this like double whammy of using a model to search and then using a model to explain. Giving it the context. Context is 04 long-term document. And let me actually do one thing before I move on here. Is in the graph reconstruction issue, now that we've implemented all of this, which still doesn't seem to work, right? Like we weren't able to get the graph back. Here what I'm going to do is update the long-term document with all the changes that you did to make sure it's up to date, right? And then here I'm going to go back to the max model because our context window is pretty long, and I also wanted to reason a little bit on what's in the document and what's in the overall thing. All right, so we're going again, like thought traces, always pretty cool. So remove these 2 tables, kept the table and graph state management, update all of this. Now it's reading the whole document. It's 7,000 tokens at this point, which is not too bad, right? In like the modern world. In GPT-4 or even worse, GPT-3 5 times, that would have been a problem. And so now we can see it editing these things. We can review the edits. So it's mentioning the SQLite database, which is interesting. It was missing before. On startup, it explains the new flags. Then it loads the graphs and loads the events. Here, a little bit unclear what it changed. It's probably just some white space. Then if we go to the next change, ensure persistence, all emitted events in the events table, the constructed graph structure in the nodes and edges table, raw planning data in the graph plans table. And I'm really curious to see, is the graph going to be stored in a database, right? Like, would replaying the events have been like easier to do debug? Might still be, right? That I'm at some point I'm like, well, it is able to create the graph on just replaying the events, and we store all the events. So like, what are we doing here? And then do the state management. So we're going to accept this file, and now we're going to move on to this chat that we had started right here, context. I'm going to just, because I don't know what cursor does when I do this, context here, the first node created and step started event don't have the run ID set. Right? It's like, I'm going to paste this here, actually, just to give it like a little bit more context. I'm not sure how much that's going to help. And then I'm going to give it to, I haven't played with the O4 minis and all of that. So if someone has a suggestion, if I should use one of them, feel free to tell me. But I played with them a bunch last weekend, and it was pretty interesting, but it's also just like a lot of time wasted because it often just like doesn't look up at all the possible code path to see what might be missing. We'll see if it's able to find it. If not, we'll switch to a thinking model and we'll see what it's doing. And I'm using 4.0.3.5 because I know the agent mode's pretty decent. I don't know if the other models are now better or not. Like, I don't have time to experiment. And the next time I'm going to experiment, I'm just going to switch to open source stuff because... Yeah, but you're not using cursor, right? Like more Yikes, because Yikes is telling us like that you're using O4 mini or O3, which I do absolutely love the models. It's more like the cursor integration is weird, and so if if it's not able to do a tool call, then I'm kind of wasting my time. For O3, I definitely enjoy doing the workflow that I did before, which is just assemble code by hand using my tools and then copy paste them into O3 to ChatGPT. I have web, I have all these like different, I can add PDFs to it and all of that. And then I can do the inference, right? But like here, the tool calling is like all kinds of weird, even with 4.0, like, right? Like, and why did it stop here? Why am I missing there's just so much weird in cursor lately. And it's like bugging me enough that, I definitely want to switch, but I also want to get this shit done. So I don't know if I'm losing time at this point. So the run ID stems from the execution context not being properly passed, is used to pass information, and the forward step is created with context base, emit step started. It's used by methods like next emit node created is not directly shown from the snippet. It could be checked to ensure the context is passed correctly. I like that. Ensure that the execution context is initialized with the run ID when passed to those. And so now I think it's time to switch to here and then like figure it out and fix it. I could say like think very hard. I don't know. Yikes. Yeah, you showed me cursor, man. You told me to switch. I was doing the copy pasty thing before. So it helped, but now I'm just losing so much time with all of this. Like, for example, what just happened, the Gemini is not very stable. I don't know how much money I'm spending. I don't know what context is doing. I like the agent mode for quite a while. It definitely like put me on the path of Agents Rock. But at this point, it feels like Klein or Roo or whatever are pretty good at doing the diff format as well, since like OpenAI and Gemini are starting to work with training on diff formats, which was the main appeal of Cursor. I really like the tab complete, right? The other issue is that I've locked in a pretty good price in terms of requests because I got grandfathered in. But so this is curious here because it's like not missing, it's missing report writing, for example. So I wonder if this is something to document here where it says story writing and report writing. And if that's something that I should address. Emission, and then so here I could say recursive agent story writer. No, is that where it is? Story writing. It's a recursive story writing. It's not like an agent. So it's in story writing, and then are you going to do the... I was talking about the tab complete being great, but there we go. So I wonder if having this in the context would have helped in this case. So the engine py, like why is it... Okay, the code confirms that emit started is called with context none. In this case, I will pass emit step started with the initial context. Yeah, that's a good catch. And then emit node created. Now I need to check how the execution context is passed to abstract node init. And here you can see Gemini reading code, which is nice. And it's not using the language server protocol, which is funny to find where these things are used. It's just like greps and reads. Does accept an optional story writing when the is created, instantiating without passing it, and then do report writing. So it's annoying that I have to tell it to do that as well. All right. So let's see what happens, right? And this has like a ton of like weird type checks, which are not my thing. This is the reason why I really wanted to start investigating this by myself with the UI is that I had so much trouble understanding how this works. It has like so many, like, look at that. 1 string, 2 strings, 3 strings, and then trying to figure out why it's doing this version for what is even execute, right? Like all of these things are referenced by strings that are in variables that are loaded in like dicts. It was really hard for me to figure this out. So that's why I started like cleaning up the Python quite a bit, because this confuses LLMs, confuses the heck out of LLMs as well. And then obviously there's going to be like no type checking, and it just like breaks things. If you turn on type checking and then it's in this file, then it will start trying to fix this shit. It's just like pretty annoying. So I find the code search in Cursor, I find actually pretty freaking effective in terms of gathering the right context. I mean, this might also just be me, right? I've never tried like repo prompt. I don't know what you are using. Yeah, so Claude Squad, I don't know what it is. I've been using like scout.new was great when it worked yesterday evening. Like it stopped working today for me, but I'm actually going to try again to get it to maybe run again. We're performing system maintenance. We'll be back soon. Okay. Because I must have burned so many of their credits overnight. All right, so this fixed it, but let's try out. Let's try this out, right? Like, so I'm starting. I have an empty UI because I didn't reload the latest session. Now I'm going to go here and restart the agent, and we should get a run ID for the first node created and for the first step started. And hopefully this will fix the graph. I'm not fully sure, right? Like I'm going to add a couple of here, and I have like the node created, node added, edge added. And I know that this wasn't like stored in the database. So now we can do select star from events where what? So it's event type, right? Where event type is equal to edge added. I don't think this is going to... Oh, it's working. Like it has a couple, right? And then, I mean, I don't have an LLM here. I feel like I can't use this. I'm turning into a non-programmer. It's hilarious. And here we should have the graph, right? I should have, how do you get the tables? Like this. Select star from nodes. All right, has a ton of nodes. And then from edges. Has that as well. Cool. So we're going to stop this dude. We're going to do reload session. And we're going to reload this here. And then hopefully we get the events. First thing. We get our edge added, which is like a big step. And then nice. Nice. Love it. So we're gonna commit this. So recursive git add ttemp, and then so now, did we have anything to change here? No, it was just like passing the initial run ID, right? So git add recursive, and then ambulance fix passing the run ID to the initial events. And probably because of that, it was just like throwing errors when adding nodes or something on this first node. And then all the other nodes had this like maybe as a parent. So I'm going to also edit the to-do and the to-do here in the bugs, add run ID to the run started. And then first node never has a node added event. So that might also be a weird one. Might as well test it here as well, right? Like I think the first node created also doesn't have a node added event. So I'm going to add that. What about the NA status of new nodes? That I don't seem to know. The no parents I also need to investigate. And here's why the first node created doesn't have a corresponding node added. This event is emitted. So here the thinking trace might be useful to look at. I don't want to read them all on stream. Trace the root node creation. Yeah, and there's nothing like all too crazy. Okay, so node added, this is called during the plan to graph when a node and any subsequent planning node process a plan received from an agent and adds the child nodes define this. Since the root node itself isn't part of a plan being processed by a parent node, it's never added to another node's inner graph. Therefore, no node added. Its existence is signaled solely by the node created. Okay, so it tells me it's not a bug actually. And if I look at the event trace, if I look at the node created here, we have the node ID, root node ID unknown because it doesn't know it yet. And then we have 64F plan node composition. So do we see that one actually in the graph? I'm not sure. I think this is 64F. Okay, so we do see it. And then the problem is that it doesn't seem to be a parent of the other nodes, right? Oh, and this is like another thing here is that this is purely a styling thing. Fix white font in the event node detail modal. Actually, that's actually a subpoint of this feature, and we'll get right to that afterwards. I'm curious to see, this doesn't have a node ID, which is interesting. And these guys here have a node ID of 2, layer 1, and I don't know if they have like a parent ID on this. So if we go to the events and on the node ID 2, oh, hold on. What was the node ID on this guy? It was 04D36. 04D36 has a root node ID of this guy and then the outer node ID. So that's interesting, right? It's like the outer node ID, root node ID. Outer node ID should be reflected in the graph as a parent relationship, maybe. Because there's different edges. So those are questions that now I'm going to ask because I'm not fully sure what the graph structure is. And I might create a document that explains what the graph structure is because it's the document I want to read. So I'm reading what Yikes is telling me, and yeah, it's a lot of lot of different products out there right now, right? It's like crazy. There's so many things, and they all kind of seem that they're catching up to each other like every week. So it's just like, I think at some point it's just like doesn't matter already. Like in terms of models, I often use the older ones, and I play with the DeepSeek and stuff because it's faster, or like they're all kind of like starting to be equivalent, where it's not like, oh, it's Sonnet 3.5, right? Like for a long time, for a year, it was like Sonnet is the one I go to. The other ones, GPT 4.0 kind of works, but Sonnet just like does it better. Now it's like they all have their reason to exist, right? So where was I? Explaining graph, right? So this bug is actually okay. We don't need the node added, I think. There's this weird issue that the node ID, so we should show the node ID here because it's just like annoying to show, to only show like this UUID. Show the NID. So this is something we're going to do in the UI here as well, right? It's like show the NID in the events list. So now that we did we commit all of this? No. So fix passing the run ID. We updated our to do. We're going to amend here, and then we're going to push it. All right, so where we are at now is that, right, I can click here, I get this like nice little metadata kind of pop-up, and then when I go to the task graph and I click on a node, I also get the related events, but here I don't get like a little nice pop-up, it goes down here. One thing I want to have is maybe I want to have tabs or something like that. But also I want to consolidate this code, right? Like this should have, I think, the same view as the events over here, just reuse the same exact thing. And I also want to analyze the structure right now. And then I remember the other thing that we wanted to do is like examine how the graph exactly works, right? And so context 04 long-term document event logging, and then look in recursive and find all the files related to updating graph and nodes and node parents and subgraph plans, and write a detailed document on how. So I'm going to switch to 3.5 for now, because it's also like a slightly better writer on how the graph structure is built, what it contains, what the different types of relationships between nodes are. Write it for a new intern that is not fully familiar with all these concepts and is new to the code base. Use natural language, bullet points, short, incomplete, pseudocode, code snippets, and then store in ttemp 2025-0424, and then this like document. So what my concept here is creating the document that I personally want to read if I were to learn about this system, right? Like if I were a developer, I want to have like not just a document that gives me the info, I want to have like a really nice document that's pleasant to read, that contains all of this. And usually by doing that, this is also because it encodes intent in a way that is natural language, so conveys a lot of subtlety that just pasting in API descriptions will not give you. And I think that's the big difference with this kind of documents versus plan documents, is you get the added subtlety that is not apparent and hard to encode in more rigid structures of how everything is connected. And right, like models don't differentiate between code and normal language. So as they've been trained on tons of normal language and not just code, they are able to get like a really much more subtle understanding of how things fit together if you give them natural language as well. So, just reducing it to terse specs or like to do checklist, it's like, I don't think it's good prompting actually, and certainly isn't pleasant to read for humans. And it tends to go into jargon that's like often misleading. If you have project and task, and then you have like code about tasks and all of that, that will like kind of really strongly dilute things, I think. At least it used to. If you switch to small models, you'll understand what I mean. So how the task graph works in recursive, right? And then the name of the file is also already like part of the program, right? It's like, it's not called like graph.md. It's called like how the graph works in recursive, which is exactly what I want the document to contain. And it also shows like, oh, maybe it should be like more like a blog post in a way. And this new intern stuff is something that I added because I do want to have like code concepts explains as well. And so when I say like, oh, explain the Redis queue, it will add a little section about Redis and about the Redis queue and which verbs it uses, which is stuff that I personally don't know very well either. It certainly will forget if I switch to another event queue or stuff like that. So this was a little bit of an explanation about the types of documents that I create. At this point, I have like 20 hours of unprocessed stream recordings. I hope I get better at explaining my stuff as well. It's really time that I write up a blog article about this, because it's been working really well, right? Like now my stuff feels like I have a full process that is repeatable. I am not at the mercy of the models. Everything here is kind of pleasant, goes at the rhythm that I want it to go. It really makes a huge difference. And so if you look at this document that we just created, right, like it is written in a way that is fairly pleasant, I think. I should maybe refine it a little bit. But this is exactly kind of the information that I wanted, right? It's like decomposition of complex tasks into smaller, manageable subtasks. It's designed to track dependencies between tasks, manage their execution order, and maintain the state of task completion. This document explains how the graph works, how different components exist, and how they interact. So we have nodes, which have task info, goal, task type, node type status, and inner graph. And I just had an idea which we're going to try out, which is going to be pretty interesting. The graph class manages relationships between nodes. Cool. Node relationships. We can have edges, parent-child. A child node can only execute after all its parents complete. Outer inner. So each plan node has an inner graph containing its subtask. The outer node references points back to the parent node. So I wonder, these edges are dependencies, but then there is a second type of hierarchical reference where it says it's a parent, but it's like a whole graph that point back to the same, right? So it's like more like a block. And then there's a root node path, which is not all that interesting. And then it does all of these things: memory context, memory management. Each node can access results from its dependencies. Memory is organized hierarchically. That's pretty cool. Execution context, event system, best practices, error handling, common pitfalls, state confusion. Yeah, that is LLM slop. Next steps. Let's remove the slop. And this, I think, however, is pretty useful, the best practices, because it's going to be useful when writing code. And it gives you like a good indication of how to use all of this, which, for example, if I were to just write a plan, would go missing. For example, use memory system for sharing results, I think is a very, if that is missing from the context, how is the model supposed to know that there's a memory system for sharing results, right? It's like, it can get it from the code, maybe if it sees it in its context window. Here I will have it in the document, and not just in a document, but as best practices, which, people will maybe encode into cursor rules, which I guess is fine. I don't use them very much because I still think about this, like in the worst case, I have a nice document to read it, and those best practices are actually really useful to me as well. So the thing that I wanted to try actually, which I haven't tried before, and I wonder why, is if I go to right here and I download the paper and I actually store the paper in the code base. So code, corporate headquarters, no, it's in others, LLMs right here. And then we're going to say like paper.pdf, right? And so now using paper.pdf, can we load that? Paper.pdf. Sweet. Using paper.pdf, write a new document. Oh no, let's try this. Extend 03 how the task graph work with information that links back the code information to the paper content. This will allow you to write full sections with full paragraphs about how the overall task planning works as well. And I do want to install the PDF view. It has 8 million installs, so that's not bad. Is it done? Paper PDF. Well, whatever. I don't know if Cursor can parse PDFs, and then here I'm just going to put in like 3.7 Sonnet Max. Yeah, I just wanted to have it like do the big thing. Oh my god. It's funny. I have like 13 views on X, I think. And when Ray, so it's not able to read PDFs. So you know what we're going to do here, since it's not able to read PDFs. We're actually going to go into right here, and then if I go into recursive, Pinocchio Catter stats, we have 105,000 tokens in Python. So I'm going to do stats per directory. Agent prompts. So we're not going to take the prompts. I don't remember how my exclude directories. So it's going to be exclude agent prompts, story writing. This is 6,000. This is agent prompts is, it doesn't show the total, which is interesting. It's not recursive, but we're still going to ignore this. And so how much does this do for us? It's full. No. Gives us 82,000 tokens plus a PDF. That's a little bit much, huh? Cure action, utils. We don't need utils either. Because what is in utils? Yeah, it doesn't have much interesting stuff in there. All right, so how much does that give us in terms of stats? 60,000. All right, we're gonna try it. So we're gonna take 60,000 tokens, and we're gonna call it right here .md, and then we're gonna go to ChatGPT 203. We're gonna add this file, temp right here at .md. Then we're also going to take upload from computer, code, others, LLMs right here, paper, PDF. And I'll say, God damn it. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so update the right here. Oh, and then we have this like final document, right? How the task graph works. Update the following document in depth to link all the code back to the paper. Be very nice and be very engaging. as a written out document for a new intern that joined the project. Use full paragraphs and full sentences. And I'm gonna attach the document, right? Or should I put it into here? I'm gonna put it in here. Maybe I should have bracketed. We'll see. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, that was the experiment that I wanted to do. And now I lost track. We know how the... Okay, so we know that there's this weird inner-outer relationship, and I am not seeing it in the graph here, right? I am not seeing it in... I'm not seeing it here, and it bugs me a little bit because I do want to see these things grouped. And so we're using this library called RiaFlow, which in hindsight I don't know is what the best thing or not. But getting started, components basically nested. So that's the interesting thing here with the nesting. Nested edges, linking, edges. So this is kind of the thing that I want to have it do, right? Can I look at the code in more detail? So nested RiaFlow, is there something in the documentation? Probably not. Nested flows, library, XY flow, draw edge. I'm just going to reference this page, and I'm going to say, I'm going to use Sonnet 3.5 actually. And I'm also going to create a new document, which is going to be about the UI function, right? So document, similar to the event logging system document, look for all the code doing graph plus event visualization in UI React, read it, and then write a compelling document for a new intern joining the project, explaining how the event and graph visualization is done. Use full paragraphs. This is something I should reuse and like kind of really prompt engineer. Short pseudocode, snippets, bullet points, be very detailed and explain higher concepts as well. And also see how the task graph works in recursive. Boom. And what is our ChatGPT doing here? This guide is our companion to navigate through the recursive repository. It walks line by line through the Python source. Why a graph in the first place? The paper frames long-form writing as a hierarchical task network. This is really cool. Recursive planning, plan and pan to graph. Each leaves is executable. Cite turn 1 file 5. What does that mean? Turn 1 5 file 18. What does this mean? What is this? I don't know if I needed O3 to answer that, but why not? So it's cool because now we can link the Python back to the paper. Algorithm 1, page 6, bridges paper line 4. So I'm going to do this more. Okay, so update the document to include the quoted referenced part from the cited chunk. Because it's doing RAG on the PDF, I assume. All right, in the meantime, we have now our first document here, event and graph visualization. I forgot to tell it to store it into a file, right? So, and here I wonder if I should... All right. If I should, I forgot to say store it in somewhere. So I'm going to store it. I don't think we need to add anything to this. So I'm going to store that by hand, right? I'm going to store it in here. I'm going to create it, new file, long-term document UI, how UI design document.md, because it's a long thing here, future enhancement. We're going to remove it. Performance consideration. This is the Sonnet 3.5 slop. State management guidelines. This is cool. And this one, the how does the graph work? We're also going to turn it into long-term document. This is something I'm experimenting with. And what I'm going to do now, and maybe this will waste too many tokens, but also I shouldn't worry too much. I'm going to switch to Sonnet 3.7 Max. Gemini? Gemini. Add a detailed section on how the graph is rendered and constructed using RiaFlow in the same detailed and engaging style. Add to 04 long-term document event, not long-term event logging system, but the user UI design document. I don't know if Gemini was a good idea because it's going to fail on the writing, I'm sure. Update the document to include the quoted reference part. Excerpt from right here.md. No. Oh, it is from the PDF, right? Also from the PDF. I'm not sure. This is a little bit weird. All right, cool. Yeah. So this might be pretty interesting to see how far we get into all of this, right? So now flesh out 3, recursive planning, and 4 in a lot of details. Think very hard. All right, rendering of the graph with RiaFlow. The heart of the graph visualization is the RiaFlow library. The components, blah, 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 add as this, data adaptation, custom node rendering, and then we have the modals. So interactions, clicking a node. Now add a full section about how the modals are used to represent event data. I heard about it, right? But that's like a Claude Code thing that triggers like a higher thinking setup. This was Yax asking about the ultrathink word. I think in Claude Code, I think it's like defined in a prompt, right? Yeah, it calls it, but I don't think it's like the model being super trained, right? Like the ultrathink is something that refers to the Claude Code prompt. Ultrathink. Ripgrep ultrathink. If this includes ultrathink, then it affects the thinking budget, right? I don't know what Tengu thinking is. That's their tool, right? So, and I'm adding one more section here. I should maybe have switched to a bigger model. And then here, it fleshed out this. So it fleshed it out as the code, but also it fleshed both sections out with data from the paper. I'm not sure how well it's able to read the PDF. It seems like a little bit jank. Also, the PDF is like actually a little bit unclear, right, for many things. All right, displaying event types with modals. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do one pass with the max model. And it's like, now verify everything in the document. Think very hard to see if it matches the code. Update anything that is wrong and add details where you see fit. Because I do kind of trust Gemini's judgment is pretty good. In terms of like, oh, add the details that you think are important. If you give that to 3.7, it's just going to go blah. So we'll see where this goes. And so here it thinks really hard, right? Like it's going to just like do a lot of tokens matching the document to the source code. And we'll see. I didn't even read it, but it had it in the context. So what is it updating here? Gonna look at that. So it's just adding some types, that's nice. Adding more types, that's nice. Instead of using ViaFlow default node rendering, we use a custom node. This gives us full control. It uses SVG's foreign tag to allow rendering standard HTML documents within the SVG. That's interesting too. This is the kind of hallucination that like the smaller models start to do when the context size, or like it's the same model, but when the context size becomes smaller, it starts to make up stuff like that in its thinking train, and then it takes them over. So that's why, amongst others, I did this pass, because if you start having wrong tokens in your documents that you keep reusing all the time, it's just going to be a pain in the ass, and at some point you have to clean them up. So might as well do it like here, right? And then here, like inner graph build, I don't think exists. Yeah, this is all nice detail to add, right? And now that we have this document here, which I'm going to commit to disk, now we're ready to start implementing the visual features. So I'm going to add this to ttemp. I'm going to add the paper, and I'm going to say like sparkles, add documents about the graph, add the paper. And might as well also add this document here. Now pull in hard numbers, exact quotations. So let us look at this here. 3, recursive planning. It removed all the stuff about the code, right? It's not good at updating things, but this is better. Like I don't need a walkthrough of the code. I'm curious how much of this is true. But this is really interesting as a technique. I haven't used that all too much yet. So I'm going to not save it as a long-term document, right? I'm just going to save it like graph, paper and code analysis.md. That's it. Happy and welcome to the recursive team. It's funny, that's the intern stuff. So we're also going to add this document to the Git. So books, add document about paper and code. Yeah, I think Yikes, the UltraThink, MegaThink, and all of that is just like a way to control the token budget that you give it, and then obviously also the costs, right? Which I don't know if they did like a slash command would have been interesting too, but it allows you to save it, I guess, in the prompt. There's a lot. I think there's so much UI to be explored there, and I'm a little bit this like hegemony of Cursor and Windsurf and Klein and all of these guys. And on the other hand, everybody jumping on Claude Code. I think Aider is probably doing a lot more interesting UI stuff. Like you're trying out a lot of these things. Like which one do you think is the most innovative in terms of like building context? I think repo prompt is a really interesting idea. There's so much to be explored here, right? In terms of like building your context nicely instead of just saying like, YOLO, something will figure it out for me, which I think is also just wasteful. If you control your context pretty well, DeepSeek really slays as well. So it's quite interesting. Now that we have all these documents, even if they have like shitty names in here, let's switch to... how do you think they're a totally different ball game? Like, you mean in terms of comparing it to Aider? Because Aider is not an agent kind of thing. It's like not geared towards being automated. Yeah, I agree. Like, now that I've been doing this, like, oh, run in the background, I don't care about what you do, and I'll look at you in 2 hours or 2 days or so. That is definitely very, very different. You're right. I was more thinking about in terms of UIs. Well, I guess for both paradigms, right? Like, there's so much about how do you manage all of these things. There's so much UI to be explored, and we're still stuck in this, like, this hasn't changed in 2 years, basically, right? Yeah, so Claude and Cursor and like Gemini and Cursor, they are able to do really long chains as well. So in a way, once I have my document, I kind of think a little bit of them as like async background stuff, because I can get Gemini to fill its context window and just like barb on for like 4,000 lines. And then the context window starts to degrade, so it doesn't make sense to continue. All right, but so I don't remember exactly what I wanted to do. Now I do remember. So we're going to take our context 03, the graph explanation, right? 03 long-term document, how the task graph works, and then 03 long-term document UI design. And we're going to say using, and we have this URL about RiaFlow, which is here. Update the graph so that the nested relationship is also rendered correctly, right? And I am going to, at first, do the same thing again, which is just use Sonnet 3.5 and see where this goes, and then potentially switch to a thinking model to do the second pass. And I don't think this warrants a plan document. I think I can do this like in one conversation in a two-shot kind of thing. Yeah, well, you can, I think in Cursor, you can influence quite a bit of what the agent's going to do. Like, you can tell it to start running scripts and do a lot of it on its own. Obviously, it's not geared towards being like Claude Code, right? But like, in a way, the interaction, you can make a pretty similar prompt about it. But yeah, it's all of this is interesting. And now that I'm like really pilled with agents, I'm going to be looking at this a little bit more closely. So the diffs that Sonnet 3.5 here is doing are pretty nice. So I'm curious to see where this goes, because this is starting to be, not only do I not care about knowing all of this, but I also I wouldn't know how to gauge this, right? It's weird that it doesn't show a diff here. So yeah, I'm curious if this will work or not, right? We're going to accept all, and we're just going to run it. And in this case, I think we do need to rerun the whole thing, right? Because the inner graph built, yeah. So it's not. This is not encouraging. Oh no, there it is. So this doesn't look. I do want to see these boxes, right? And I'm not seeing that. And then so here on the node, execute node reasoning. So there's one more thing that I want to have here, which is 0, 1, 2 do is show the metadata of the node added event when clicking on the node is one of them. The other one is step started, node status changed, node added. And so here we don't have the full node created, outer node ID. And which node did I click on here? So if I click on design the overall outline, right? And I go to the node created for this node 489. So the node created event. It has an outer node ID, which is the 6F4, which is this one, right? So there's something weird here in terms of, and I'm going to switch to the reasoning model at this point. So the nesting C, and maybe the link to the page that I gave it is not all that great. Like I don't know if it has seen the code here. Nested graphs RIA flow. Nested grow ordering blah 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 blah. This is React flow. This is the storyboard thing, right? RIA flow dev nested edges, ports, nested nesting. Yeah, that's cool. The nesting, see the attached example below, should apply to the outer inner relationship and show the sub thingy in a box. Think very hard about the approach above and refine if necessary. And then here, example. So we're going to see what this does. The user wants to refine the nested graph visualization because I don't even know if it has the right event to actually do this nested visualization. So Garrett, what's the link that you're showing me? Hold on, let me add that. Let me add that to the broadcast. So it's garrett.github.io. I did a pretty deep dive in Claude Code when the leaked code came out. And so since then I haven't like really followed it more. But I'm sure people just reverse engineer every single version that comes out. No, don't print it. Oh, this is cool. I mean, it's LLM slop, but yeah, this looks pretty similar to what I had. It's actually a little bit more sloppy. Let me show you what I had, which was private. No, Claude Code private, because I had to. It was DMCA down, and then this was March 09, right? So it's like it's a while ago, but I had like an analysis of the individual files and how the file read tool works, the different prompts, I think, how the MCP integration is working. So this is sloppy. This is like bullet point list garbage. Token management, the architect tool, the management tools, token management. Memory tools. I'm sure like quite a bit has changed since then, but it was interesting to see. None of this is like really rocket science. Like none of this really feels like too crazy to do. So fix type errors, address the type errors in there, refine adapter, correctly assign parent node ID for inner nodes and parent undefined for top level nodes, edges, add the parent property to edges that exist within the same inner graph, assign a specific CSS class to these internal edges, keep other edges as they are hierarchy, add RiaFlow, ensure styles for edge nested are correctly applied, and then refine the adapter, the custom node now. So we're going to accept all, and then we're going to see what this does, right? So I'm still not seeing this stuff, and it could be that we're like missing some stuff. Yeah, why is it not doing this like nested representation, right? It's like, does it not know how to do it? Is it like a styling thing? Because those now, and it could also just be we're missing the event that we need, right? Outer node ID 6F3, and then it doesn't have the parent node ID because it needs an edge. Edge added from 489 graph owner node. Oh, and this doesn't have a step. Okay, so let's add that to the thing here as well. Edge added is missing the step number. Parent node 498 A1F. This is A1F, and then the parent, this is 4. This is 489, right? But so why do they have different colors? Because it's a different type. This is a plan node. This is a composition node. This is a reasoning node. And then this is a reasoning node too, but it's yellow. I'm not sure if it's about the status. It's not about the status either. Is this layer 2? This is layer 1. And this is layer 1 as well. Not sure about the color here. This is edge added. So it's weird. It's not able to establish the parents based on those guys. Yeah, so this is where it gets kind of confusing, right? It's like, how do you debug that kind of stuff? Because here clearly we have, so we should be able to look at the events in a little bit more closely as well. I want this to be basically nested to the outer node ID. All of these have the same outer node ID, right? Yeah, so all the things that have the same outer node ID should be in a box. And I wonder how the box is done, and I can't look at this code. This is so annoying. Parent to 1. So there's a node to 1. How does this even work? Like, why is the doc so shitty? Advanced, styling, getting started, linking nodes. Nodes can be linked to node them together. How does the nesting work? Data shapes, utils, extending, getting started, graph, detecting circular, basics, components. Doesn't show me anything. Data shapes. No. Linking nodes. Extending. Styling. Custom nodes. State management, SSR support. Refs. It has nothing about nesting. Which is annoying because... So how does this work? We have a canvas with nodes. Why can't I make this higher? This is so annoying. So it has 2 edges, right? Like it doesn't have much. It has a parent to an invisible node. Oh, I see. So we probably need to insert. Or can we do edges with different styles? Advanced styling. Denote edges and arrows can be styled. Okay, so maybe in here, since we are, this kind of didn't really help, right? Like I'm not sure. Nested node styles. Custom node. Custom node has a parent and a node prop. And nodes, node click. This is just indentation. Is nested. Node parent is nil. And inner nodes. So I think this also might just be an event that's missing. So what we're going to do is we're going to rerun this and see where we get from there. Because now a task graph should be empty, right? We have only one node. All right. So this is getting us a little bit further, right? Except the inner nodes should not be happening. Initial parent NIDs, added node NID, node status changed. These like inner nodes here, they also have been added on inner graph build, right? And so what's the payload of inner graph build? Because, oh, so now we do have the nesting. Oh, very cool. So this actually is not bad at all. It just looks a little bit weird because we kind of want to insert like a pseudo node to make it look good, because we can't now like this is a little bit annoying to look at. Plan node, collect data, and then if we click on this one, collect data on current market statistics. This is 5.4, and then this is C01, and then this guy is EA46. All of this is like kind of really annoying to look at. Design the overall line, this. So maybe I'm going to commit this. This is like a good intermediate point that I don't want to fuck up by doing some reverts that I get confused about. So this is going to be, it's going to be a little poop, right? Because it's not perfect. Lipstick, sparkles, have first pass at nesting outer inner relationships. It's just a little bit ugly. What I want is actually for nodes that have inner nodes to group the inner nodes in a kind of blank nodes to have a clear box around them. And I'm going to paste some screenshot. So this is the current state. I added a current state screenshot and an example of a cleaner graph. I don't know what the visual understanding is of Gemini, but we'll see. So simple, and then we might want to have this, right? Yeah, I could tell like people generating documentations with LLMs. Let me put that comment over here. The Claude Code stuff that we looked at. I think people will get better at just understanding what makes for pleasant documents that live forward, because this stuff is just like horrible to read. Like even my documents are kind of horrible to read, but I am getting better, right? Like this 03 long-term document here, I think this is starting to be something that I could read again in 2 days. It's still like a little bit but just having a single sentence makes it a lot more human. So I do still have to work on it to have it be like because I actually don't know what I'm really looking for. So let's see, however, as this has finished, going back to see what the thinking here is. The user wants a different visual representation for nesting. Instead of just styling the parent node, .node nested, they want the parent node itself to become a blank container, a bounding box that visually groups its inner nodes. The children node should appear inside this box. This requires a few significant changes. Identify node that acts as parents, those with inner nodes. For these parent nodes, instead of rendering them with custom nodes, we might need to render them differently, perhaps making them mostly transparent. So that's not actually what I want. It's misunderstanding the issue. What I want is actually to have a clear box to them. I added this. In order to do that, you need to insert a virtual child node for the, so I want actually for that have inner nodes, for outer nodes that have inner nodes, to group the inner nodes in a kind of blank, in a box, in a clear. In order to create that wrapping box, you need to insert a child node for the outer node that contains the inner nodes, because that will then be rendered as a box. It shouldn't have any other content other than that, and should reference the outer node as its parent. In the example, 2 is a virtual encompassing node. I hope that this language helps it a little bit. And we'll see what it does with that. At least now we do have the inner nodes, right? So we know that that works, and we might need to store that in the database as well when we're restoring it. So that's the final thing we're going to do in this, because the context window is starting to get pretty long, I think. Here the thinking is going to be interesting, just to see, does it understand how it should approach it? And by understanding, it's just like, did it put tokens that increase the probability that it does what these tokens say? It's kind of a weird way of, it's not weird to think about it. It's really important to think about it this way. They don't understand or reason. Saying reason and understanding is a shortcut to say, like, by emitting these tokens, they increase the probability of making an output that corresponds to what us would have said leads to that result. I don't know if that's very clear. All of this is just like make-believe, right? It's they don't reason, like none of this, it just increases the probability that future tokens will do this, but tokens are sampled anyway. Like everything that it does is already like kind of fake because it computes probability distributions, not tokens. So all of this is pretty interesting. The user's suggestion is a virtual node. The virtual node would be a child of the original plan node in the ReaFlow data structure, act as the parents for all the actual inner graph nodes, be styled minimally, identify parent nodes, identify the original plan nodes that have inner nodes, so it's not plan node. That's also something that we might need to correct. Might actually influence the thing or not. We'll have to see that. Styling. Yeah. So here it writes to the nodes to find those with inner nodes, and it doesn't mention plan node anymore. So I hope that this is going to be correct. Modify ReaFlow adapter. Identify the original outer nodes, those with inner nodes. For each outer node, create a new virtual container node. Those nodes will be visually styled in the box. Set the parent, so this is good. Adjust edge parenting. Edges between inner nodes should have their parents set to the virtual container. Nah. Is that true? No, edges between inner nodes should have their parents set to the virtual container node's ID. That's only true for nodes that have no parents. And so this is where the diff starts to get like a little bit tricky, right? So here, right? If node to update, find node, and then if node to update and the node parent is null, that's probably where to check for null parent, right? I think that's going to be the issue here. And here you see, like here I'm out of vibe coding for sure. Here I know I have to be careful about what I'm doing and how it works. And so now I can, oh, what the fuck? That was 50 cents. All right, so if we go back to this guy, now we can see there's something weird happening here for sure. There still is like a nested kind of thing, because this is an inner node. Let's see if I reload. Yeah, because the inner nodes are not stored, right? Update. So what did we change here? Where did it add the inner nodes? Is that, okay, so now create a plan. No, create a how-to. No, create a document that explains everything you did here and why, especially regarding the inner node logic and the new event that you handle for a developer new to the project to continue working on this feature. Feature use headlines, full written detailed paragraphs, short pseudocode snippets, be exhaustive and engaging, store in ttemp, and then how far are we in our ttemps? I think we're at number 6. We're at number 6. 24, 24. Is it 24? Yeah. 06, new graph, outer, inner, logic.md. Because I think at this point, the context window is all about UI. I don't want to pull in the SQLite stuff in there, but I do need to update my whole SQLite storing stuff and kind of, first let me quick fix a few linter errors. Interesting. I am very skeptical about what you're doing here. What the fuck is that? I'm not sure about this one. We'll leave the chat open. We'll see what happens. So now stuff is starting to get pretty complex, right? So context 04 long-term document event logging design, then 03 the 03 long-term document how the task graph works, and then we just updated the UI graph construction code to handle inner nodes. I think those are not handled in the server side and also need to be properly loaded on the initial load. Please gather all the necessary context mentioned in 04 to do this update, and we're going to switch to Gemini 3.5. Write up your thoughts on how to implement this, because I do want then to pass it off to a reasoning model just to make sure we have something that's a little bit more grounded in like logic. How long have we been streaming? 2 hours, 16 viewers. That's amazing. I guess everybody's working. That kind of makes sense. All right, I'm gonna take a short break also while this is running. Let me just see before I turn on the switching model, the thinking model. Nodes, edges, graph state manager, database manager, get latest run graph, outer node ID in the nodes table, root node ID, get the inner nodes, load state, add helper method, group nodes by outer node ID, create mapping to node to inner nodes, load inner graph. That's cool. That's cool. Add validation. And now we're going to switch to Gemini Pro Max because why not? And then update 0 for long-term document design. Implement the changes, then update. Think very hard about how the proposed plan matches the code and the UI side of things. Then implement the changes, then update this. We'll see. I'll be right back. Alrighty. I haven't looked at any of this. Hopefully it does get some good logic going. So I asked it to think very hard and then that analyzes the context, looks at the schema, looks at the files, implements the database manager, loading the graph, modify the SQL query to fetch all nodes and edges for the latest run. Should allow the graph state manager to reconstruct all of it. Self-correction. I thought about returning a pre-built hierarchical structure. Implement the graph state manager, load state, instantiate all nodes, find the nodes, then all right. This is a lot of complex stuff, right? I'm doing right now, right? It's like, this is where starting to add unit tests might be useful. This is also where starting to move to Go and not have to redo this later on might also be beneficial. So I'm not sure if this doesn't work right out of the box. I am not sure I want to keep any of this, but now I have a better understanding of how all of this works, right? And I might leave the state that we had before, which was already kind of useful. It was just like kind of ugly to look at, right? Because I don't think this will work. I think this is too much. There's no unit tests. They're starting to get into like how many nested for loops. And at this point, it might really be worth switching over, but we'll try, right? So now it's, shall I proceed with updating the get node helper edges? We also need to address the node instantiation logic. Do you know how nodes are typically created from data in this project? I think, you know what? I think we should actually undo all of this and just say like store the inner nodes from the events as you did before, right? Use the same approach as the user side of actually using the event graph built event and extract the inner nodes and store those in the DB. And I'm going to switch back to Gemini to Sonnet 3.7.3.5. Use that to gather the context, put the reasoning model back. And you can see here my workflow, right? It's like at this point, I'm always kind of like cognizant of the complexity of what I'm asking the model. And if there's any sign that this might not work, I actually undo things, right? Because I don't want to go, or I might be experimental on B, right? Like at this point, I'm one commit in that's a poop commit, which means this is something I might want to backtrack on. And so I'm not trying to go in there and then trying to fix whatever mess it made. Is like I want to understand up front and have a decent gut feeling that this might work. And if not, engineer this plan until it is like written out in a level of confidence that I can attribute, but I'm never going into the details of the code per se, right? Like I'm staying at this high level kind of vibey diff review, diff brainstorming, and not switching into detail mode. And it's kind of hard to explain maybe this like difference between my brain vibing and my brain being in detail mode, because this might, depending on your seniority, for example, a lot of this might just be very detailed and you probably need to step in closer, especially since you don't know the project, right? But on the other hand, maybe this gives you an insight into what I mean by senior vibe coding in a way, is that I'm still like just letting the model do its thing and then saying like, yeah, nah, this is not it, this is not it. But then not accept the code, just be like, yeah, the code I don't care about, just undo it, right? Like the code is cheap, but however, the plan is not. And so there's a certain level of control where, in a way, now that I'm already kind of deep into feature land, stuff becomes harder. It might totally be that now that I have a better understanding of how this all fits together, if I were to start from zero, I could one-shot the entire project, right? Because I know the little details to add. I know how the inner outer now works, which I didn't before. So if I were able to go back and say like, look, the outer inner relationship is pretty important and tackle that right from the start, it might be that this first initial prompt from back then might have actually worked. Now at this point, I'm pretty committed to what I've been writing already, but something is wrong at kind of a fundamental level, and figuring out how to weave this fundamental level back in into something that works and that is elegant and it is like later on like kind of useful is something else to figure out. So here we can see like there's no schema changes. It does the same thing as before. We use the same handle inner graph build event. It like sets the outer nodes to all of this graph state manager. Here it sets the inner node. So this might actually be simpler, right? And it still doesn't change the schema, which is good. And then I'm going to switch to Gemini Pro Max, which is think very hard and validate this plan. Then implement it. Then update 04 long-term document about the changes. And we will have to update the UI initial load about this as well, right? Also plan out the changes. Nah, we'll do that afterwards because there's a decent API block in between if we return the inner blocks in the API. I know that is a correct way to do it, and then I can tackle the UI changes separately, just to not overload the context window and not overload the model with too many like little pieces to balance. So hopefully this will work. It's getting colder here. All right. Alrighty, righty. Kind of tedious, all of this, right? But it's also not an easy problem to solve. So it has implemented this. I think it is pretty easy. It adds the inner nodes. Here we can see that it tracks the inner nodes. So all of this is much easier to review than the previous one, right? Like if you remember the previous diff, it was like tons and tons of nested for loops. Not a good vibe, right? It's like, I'm like, that's kind of how I decide. I'm like, this code, I don't like it. And so obviously I've been programming for 25 years now, and I've written like way too much code. And so this is probably much easier for me than someone who has never coded, right? Because they're going to look at the code and going to be like, yeah, what the heck? But at this point, I'm losing like a lot of my sharpness as a developer to look into the detailed kind of stuff, right? Like, I don't know if .get is better than like using a hash or if all of these things matter, but here I trust the model to kind of know better than me. And also if it's not that great, like who cares if it works, right? But I do have a good sense of like 15 nested for loops. Like that's not great either in terms of like complexity, like runtime complexity, O notation, like all of these things that make up the fundamentals, right? It's like stuff that is independent of programming language, and those things are really, really important. And you should basically, if you want to vibe code, the more you know these fundamentals, and they're not easy to gain, right? Like you probably need to write stuff by hand quite a bit. But if you get these fundamentals really ingrained and are intuitive with them, it allows you to make these quick calls of like, this code is not good, this code is good, which ultimately save you like, days, hours, minutes, however you want it, right? And so here I'm going to go accept all, and then I'm going to do my second pass. And here the context window is much, much smaller. And now we're going to go to update the client-side part that loads the graph on startup to also load these attributes, right? And I don't remember what the client-side part is. Maybe I should have linked the right document, because we did create this long-term document about the UI. So we'll see if it was necessary to add it here, because it's going to be reading the graph slice, and it's going to do this change of adding the inner nodes, which is funny because so yeah, maybe that's enough, right? So we'll see. There's a good chance that this doesn't work, and then at that point, I'm just gonna undo everything, but I'm gonna keep my document that explains the inner outer, and I'm gonna add a to-do entry, and that's like already kind of worth the whole coding. Even if I discard all the code, I've actually solved the problem that I wanted to solve, which is understand the inner outer. And then because I do want to do other things that are a little bit more important to me right now, I can use this like shitty visualization, maybe let that stay for a little bit, and then focus on these like modals and refactoring the modal code a little bit and doing these things that will add more quality of life overall. And I'm also starting to notice, okay, well, I'm pushing so much into this Python server, but I ultimately want to have all of this in Go. At this point, this stuff here, it's like 600 lines of Python. It has like no real structure to it. You can see how far it is nested, right? Like this is a smell. In a way, this is like neither easy for an LLM nor for me, nor do the diffs then make sense to look at. If you split it out in functions, right, like the diffs are going to be easier because stuff is going to be not just smaller, but it's going to be less shifting indentation because things have been like, right, like if I change one thing at the high level here, for example, here, everything down here is going to be shifted, needs to be emitted as tokens, is going to fill the context window. If I split out functions, then it's possible that this like high level change is actually just going to influence like 2 lines, right? And the 2 lines have a function name that actually contains the entire semantic of what the actual code does, without having to fill the whole thing with tons of tokens. So that is also like a pretty important thing to do, is like keeping your architecture clean and tight so that the LLM doesn't have to look all over, doesn't have to emit a lot of tokens to do changes. And we're definitely running into these issues here. So I did apply that. I'm going to restart the server. Did I reload the session? I don't want to reload the session, actually. I do want to make sure that this still works from a fresh session. Then I want to restart and load from this next session and make sure it has been saved correctly, right? So I'm going to reset the whole thing. I'm going to run my agent again, have it do some planning. We're starting to get events here. We should get a single node. Then we do some calls. We're going to create new planning nodes out of here. We have this like weird ass nested UI, which, yeah, I don't even know what it is at this point. And maybe I should start doing like some test examples, right, that I can load. I should make this like not interactive. There's a couple of ideas here where it would be nice to like zoom in on like a subpart, right? Like say zoom in here. So I'm going to add that to my to-do. To-do here in the UI. To-do menial, to-do UI. So outer node ID should be reflected. So that we have, right? But like make the outer inner relationship actually readable. And also we'll say like zoom in filter on a sub part inner nodes of the graph, children nodes. So those are all ideas on how we could filter things. And yeah, it doesn't seem to be adding the edges, for example. I don't know what this little thing, oh, this is the empty box. And otherwise here we have like non-empty boxes, and it still has the I wonder why this is like a box that then does, it's not an arrow, but it's a box. Yeah, I'm so confused about all of that, and I should probably just like at this point start creating unit testy stuff to be able to examine like individual sections. So that's also a good point here. Add a way to test some preset graphs, like browse through runs. So actually have different runs and being able to navigate and go through them. So that's actually a pretty big important feature. I wonder why I didn't note it before. And so at this point, we do have a graph loaded, right? So I'm going to reload this actually with the session. And if I refresh this, I should have this kind of like similarly nested structure. And it's not, so it's not working at this point, right? Like I'm going to create something that's called like hack, which is like intermediate inner node stuff. Going to commit everything we have here. Add UI React, add ttemp. So the 06 new graph outer logic, this is the document we're going to keep also in the main branch, because this is the one that tells us everything. So I'm going to put this aside as well. UI React, git add recursive, and then here this is a poop skull failed attempt at serializing inner nodes and displaying them. So, you know, too bad. Failed attempt, first pass at nesting inner outer relationships. So what we could do at this point, if we go back to task add, so I'm going to push this actually to the hack branch. And then if I go back to task add observability, now I can take 06 and put it back into ttemp to 2025, 0424, and then remind me, yeah, just that. Git add ttemp 25, or just that. Git stat, git say books, add document about inner outer graph logic. And so here I'm curious to see. Yeah, this is not going to load it correctly, right? Then if I restart this, reloading the session, curious to see if it will send it incorrectly, but it's stored correctly, or if it's not going to be rendered correctly at all by the front end. That's also something that might be the case, right? So if I reload it without the previous session, there's going to be an empty graph, and I can restart my agent, look at what happens. And we should have a single node. Then as the planning happens, okay, so this is a decent view for me to start, right? It's like, it's not pretty. It's not super great in terms of nesting, but it also gives me, I think, a slight view of how this all fits together. I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure what this is all about. Let's continue this to see how this evolves. Yeah, no, this is good. It's just like really this like tiny visualization thing where I want this to be a child of this bigger thing here. So I think this is kind of useful to start understanding how this all fits together. Obviously, I want this to be a bigger graph. It's starting to gonna get like pretty nasty in terms of its size. So this is also something we need to put in here. Is like, oh, I should have stored the to-do as well. So let me do this. I'm going to git checkout hack into fdfind to-do.md. Yeah, and so now I have the to-do here, and then I'm also going to be make the graph canvas resize so it contains the full thing. Make it panable with the mouse. Right, because where are we stuck here in the debugger? Are we stuck in the debugger somewhere? Or not? Like, what is it doing right now? Oh, it's doing searches on the Bing browser. So this is also an interesting idea to have here, is like a little dashboard with currently executing steps and tool calls with little spinners or so. Yeah, so now it added nodes again, I think. No web pages found in results. Now it's adding more things, adding more. Is it adding more? I don't know. So anyway, we're making progress. I think if I refresh this, it's not going to look good, right? Because it's missing the inner node stuff, which we tried to add in the last one, but it like kind of didn't work out. So this is also a to do, which is a bug, which is restore inner nodes on initial graph load. There's so much here to be added in terms of prettiness. So I really want to turn this into like a badass tool. That's why I'm putting so much effort into it. So even though the graph is now not going to be pretty, I don't know why it's hanging, to be honest. We now have like a shit ton of items in here. And so the one thing that I wanted to do is fix the styling of these nodes, right? When I go here, I want this to be prettier and more useful. So for example, I do want the metadata of the node created event to be shown in the top as well. Amongst others, what are the things missing here? I'm going to take a screenshot actually. So I'm going to start a new chat here. Going to go to Sonnet 3.5. I do want to do some refactoring here actually. So I'm going to use my long-term document about the UI context. And then I'm going to show the node details for the plan node. I'm going to add this here. Context is also the long-term document about the event logging system, and say I want the relevant parts of the what can we do? So this is the node result available. Details for event node result available is not implemented, so that's another one. Implement details view for node result available. I want the relevant parts of the node created event to also be shown in the modal that is shown when clicking on a node. Gather all the necessary code to make it happen. Let's see. So none of this I will really create like intermediate documents because there's really nothing to reuse all that much. And I hope that I can like do it in a two-shot, right? Like gather the context and find the idea, then let a reasoning model run and hopefully get the reasoning model to do it in the first pass, or maybe have the reasoning model do it in two passes. First reasoning, refining the plan, and then doing it, and I'm not storing that in an intermediate document to edit by hand. I wish I was able to edit the context though in here, since this is already kind of the document that we're creating. All right. I'm pretty tired again already. So because I guess I didn't sleep much last night. I had so many like Manus agent stuff going. So if we look at the code here, what did it change? We look at the, based on the code search, I see we have all the necessary components to implement this feature. Let me modify the node detail modal so that to show the node creation event details, it finds the event type for node created. Then it updates that with the different cards. It removes the event list section, no, it indents it, and then it adds the node event detail pane, indents it as well. So it's totally possible that 3.5 did its job here. And if we click on individual nodes, we do get the full information over here, right? Now the question is, where's the width of this thing here set? It's the modal content, modal dialog, and the width here is a little bit 165. Where's that set? Where does that come from? Modal dialog auto. Max width, PS modal width. Oh, it's really just because of my window size. Okay. So if I make this even bigger, will this change things? Okay. Then I want to make these things clickable, and I also want to have the little graph that's shown in the node, in the edge added events, right? Like make all the node links clickable is maybe another one that I might add here. Make all the node IDs clickable here to open the right modal. I don't know if back will be possible. Implement back navigation to go back to the previous modal. Maybe this is adding a little bit too much, but you know, we can always revert. So now I'm definitely in the full-on vibe coding stuff. I'm just going to make stuff, see how it feels. Maybe look a little bit at the code as it comes out just to make sure that the diffs are okay, that we're not blasting the context window. But at this point, I'm turning my brain off. And we'll see how this goes because my brain is like kind of off already, right? And in fact, we might go in with the edibles and then just see once I get really like vibed out as a way to not program until 11 a.m. because I'm so excited to get all of this stuff going. So what is it doing here? I'll help you make, this is starting to be a lot of changes. Maybe I should switch to another model here. And also interesting, we're going to try that. We're going to see if we like this, we're going to commit it and then we're going to revert. None of this looks like a bad diff, right? It's like mostly one-line changes on styling anyway. The logic for the clickable node IDs we'll see. And I don't know how to necessarily do backpane navigation. That's actually a pretty interesting thing to look at. Should I use O3 for this? Let me actually see if I go into UI React and I go look at my stats. I do have 30,000 tokens in here with TSTSX. So I'm just going to clip this. And I'm also going to clip, actually, I'm not going to clip it. I'm going to say this is temp UI.md. And then I'm also going to, I'm going to upload this here. Upload from computer temp UI.md. And then I'm going to add another file, which is going to be code, others, LLMs right here. And then go into ttemp, today's files, and I'm going to go into long-term document UI design document. Going to upload all of these here and say I want to start adding back and forth navigation between node modals and event modals. What is a standard way of doing this in React? Also in React that would work well with this code base. And so here I'm leveraging the fact that it has access to all of these tools for searching and all of that to see and create a good document to maybe tackle that. Because I'm not sure if Sonnet 3.5 is like really good at doing this. I wonder, this is weird as a kind of like change. This is okay, I guess. Render prompt messages is assigned a value but never used. On node click is defined but never used. Render clickable node ID, cannot find that function. Like we're starting to get into like weird little territory here where it's like not able to find, say, render clickable node ID, which should be at the top level, I guess. That's the kind of details that happen when, for example, a model gets out of context window size. Because obviously this is defined somewhere, but it's not able to find it because it's at the end here. It's nested in something else. Like this is problematic. And I'm actually waiting to see all of this here. You already press and show back arrow, so stack abstraction is almost there. Do I do that? React router with modal routes would also work, but you would first have to introduce routing everywhere. I think it's a good time to do this. Dropping a small slice into Redux is faster and keeps modals totally decoupled from the rest of the UI. Yeah, why not? Let's do that actually instead. So we're going to go back into the navigation, right? We're going to go into our beloved ttemp folder. We're going to add a new file here, which is 07 redux slice modal navigation .md. We're going to save, this, happy wiring, add a small sign, below is a pattern that React teams. Oh, is that something that React teams do? Often used when they want seamless history-aware navigation between several floating modals. I don't know if it made it up or not, but like it's it seems like a good thing. Implement back navigation to go back. C07 redux slice, and what I might do here is just like switch to 3.7 Sonnet max, because I'm kind of curious to see, since this is UI work, to just see all the additional features that it's going to add, right? And actually, let me add reasoning to it, because why not? So let's see what happens here. Because now I'm kind of counting on like, hey, Sonnet, just to add cool shit. You know better than me what like cool shit is, so you know, just do it. You're also pretty good at designing pretty UIs. You're pretty good at modifying new files, at adding new files and splitting stuff up instead of doing what smaller models would do, which is modify files that are there. All right, let's see. Thought for 2 seconds. Create a modal slice, create a modal manager, update nodal modal details to make node IDs clickable, implement back navigation. Cool. Use dispatch, use app dispatch. Okay, why not? Weird that it wasn't already there. Modal manager, what is this? Okay. Okay, I like this. I like it. And so I can imagine that like Sonnet 3.7 is like, oh, the node IDs are clickable. Why don't I make the event IDs clickable? That it does that kind of stuff. Could totally see that. Right? Handle event click. I'm sure it already did it actually. And so that is nice, right? Like it's handle event click. I'm sure it will add it to both modals, and it just saves me a bunch of time. It's a good UX designer, especially for these kinds of like admin-y dashboards. So might as well leverage it while we're at it, right? And like go do this kind of stuff in here. And what I might do but not today, but I'm going to add it to the to-do, so this is all UI stuff again. So we're going to go there. UI stuff. This is not warm up. I'm going to do research, which is clone ReaFlow and write proper documentation, because currently the documentation is only the storybook and it doesn't really, it's not easy to give it to an LLM, and it's also not like a very good, very useful. So we have all kinds of handle stuff, but it's not big code, so that's pretty nice. What is this? This is the new modal. So here I'm going to trust Sonnet to do something cool. Also, I don't really care. This is just visualization, and the current modal sucks anyway. So, I mean, it has different tabs. I don't know if it deleted the tabs. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm just going to be surprised, and usually for this kind of stuff, Sonnet 3.7 is pretty nice to surprise. And then you can see why I switched to Max. It's just I knew this would fill the context window to oblivion. So that's why I did that. And now we only have to wait. So this is why I like using O3. This is why I'm also going back to pasting my code base together. In a way, I could start generating the documentation. My brain's a little bit full. I don't know. I'm enjoying this, like slowing down and just watching the UI take shape. Actually, this is probably going to be broken in here, right? No, it actually works. Metadata, the nodes are not clickable yet because it's in the node event data. So in here, nodes are not clickable. They're kind of not, right? I'm not sure what's happening here. Finally, update the graph canvas component to user modal navigation. All right, so well, that was the last one, right? Where's this event detail modal? Is that inside the graph, or is that used for every event detail? It's used in the table, and it's used in the modal manager. So in the table, I probably want to have the same modal manager kind of stuff. So I'm going to ask it about that. Let's update the event table. See, this is Sonnet 3.7. And in a way, this is like exactly what I want out of Sonnet 3.7, right? I'm just worried that why is it so keen on using React Feather? I guess so. Let me install that, right? Hello, cursor. All right, so I'm kind of going to trust Sonnet 3.7 here. I can see that it has like a bunch of node types on the payload on record of node created event. Node created event. So it doesn't have node created event at all in the step here, right? Node created. Does not exist on, but this is a node created event is going to be of a certain type, right? Node events. Do we have node created event? We don't have node created. So, oh, we do have node created. And in the node created payload, we do have the thing that it can do. Node created payload node type. So we do need to add some TypeScript stuff here. Created. No. So what does that mean? Node created event is an agent event. Yeah, so the typing is also something that's a little bit problematic here in the Events API. So I wonder if this is now like a good point to start doing it. I'm not sure what the event code is. Oh. Did I disable that and never remove it? And then now it's loading the graph into its whole thing. All right, whatever. I'm not sure. So does this actually even load? So it's at least doing this. And now those are clickable. But the back doesn't seem to work. So the back navigation, I think, if I click on this and I go there, so that doesn't work, right? Which I'm not sure I necessarily want, but it would be nice, I guess. And I wonder if at that point I need the router. So I'm going to ask that in the same chat, and then I'm going to make a new chat because I think this is a good start. Oh, did it have two modals open? Oh, this functions as a back as well. So that's a bug. Why? Because I don't want to have to close 18,000 things. Okay, so multiple things. Close should close the entire stack. Make the back button navigation navigate modals as well. I don't know if I'm still... This was only 800 lines of code, so I think we still have a little bit of room before this gets too much. And what else can we do? So if I open this step started, then that doesn't work. So, however, closing the step modal does that, right? So the step navigation seems to be doing this. In the step navigation, I can click on the nodes, which is really nice. And then, so I add the back navigation to the event modals, add back navigation to event modals, including the arrow, right? And then what else do we want to have in here? Payload, event types. This all looks pretty nice overall. I think I'm pretty happy about this. All right, yeah, cool. So this is the three things that we might want to do over here still. And then we're going to ask it to update the UI design document. And we're going to move on. Right, so this is where Sonnet 3.7 is pretty nice. As far as the event types go, I'm going to actually ask Gemini, I think, because I do want to see the thinking trace of Gemini regarding TypeScript stuff for things like this, and then learn something, right? So sidebar with events in the graph view, we can remove that, clicking on the node, able to visualize it in the graph. Similarly, events graphs click back to event log. Yeah, so that's nice. So add a go to node, go to event, button in the modals to switch views, scroll to the relevant place. I don't know how hard this is going to be. Add a previous after navigation to the event modal. We have auto scroll, toggle, and the event view. So those are all things that I can kind of give to Sonnet and then just let it rip. And kind of trust it to do the right stuff, which is really cool. But first, before we do that, I want to tackle this like TypeScript stuff, because now we're starting to have all these like red lines everywhere, and that's bugging me. So as far as the divs go, this is still like decent divs. It doesn't look like the context window is getting hammered. In a way, I hope that it's getting hammered, because that allows me to show you what that looks like. But yeah, no, this is the kind of stuff where I would start being like, what are you doing here? So we'll see, right? Like this could be the beginning of stuff that it shouldn't change. Like there's no reason why it shouldn't change, why it should change this. Right? And then suddenly we're losing this like title stuff. So this is the kind of stuff where I'm like, why did you do that? Little bit weird. It added the button, and it's possible that it does that in the node detail modal, right? If we go here, go see the title, see, this is where it's starting to lose track a little bit of what this is all about. So that one is kind of curious. Because the badge should probably the modal title, right? So this div should be modal title. And you can see how looking at the divs allows me to immediately clock stuff that should have maybe not changed. Where I'm like, this is weird. And where is this in event detail modal? Why can't I find it? Has previous? All right, so it's right here. And then this here should be modal title. All right. And then if we look at it, we're back to where we started. All right. So all of this seems to be going pretty well. I wonder if we can make the node links like a little bit nicer. Also, they're like oddly misplaced, but who cares about that? All right, so the other things I want to have here is the related events. I want to have the detail view, so this is also something I'm going to add in the to-do. Related events in the graph node modal should show the detail snippet. All right, but so we're going to update this, and then we're going to call this chat done to reflect the new navigation stack in detail. And it's going to take a while. This is weird. Like, so there's, I guess, not many viewers on this post, which is interesting. Yeah, I'm really not sure why some posts get like so few views and others get more. It's really curious. Not that I care a little bit too much. It's like I hope that passes pretty soon. So this added the whole modal stuff here. I'm going to see if there's some slop, but 3.7 is pretty good at not having slop. It's adding a little bit too much code, right? But for now, it's going to be fine. We're going to start a new chat, and then here we're going to go to Gemini 2.5 Pro. We're going to look at all these like little event things that are. So event context is 04 the event logging and 04 the UI design, right? We have TypeScript definitions in event API, is that where it is? Used in event detail modal, and then render payload and event table TSX. What's the node event detail pane? Is that even still used? Or is that used in a detail modal? Yeah, node event detail pane and node event detail pane. I'm actually going to switch to this guy here. They are a bit problematic. I don't know too much about TypeScript. Propose a better way of structuring the union type for events, right? And then I think in events API is where we have all the payloads. Yeah. And their payload to avoid type errors. Think really hard. And then let's go. And this is actually the part that I'm most looking forward to, is just like the thinking trace. Because it will teach me a little bit more about TypeScript. And it might also be that I'm starting to add O3 to the mix. That's actually a pretty good idea. So I don't know how unknown works, so I might ask for a definition here. Yeah, I kind of really curious about how this all works. All right, so it fixed all. Let me see if there's I should have committed before that actually. So how are we going to do this? I am going to restore over here. I'm going to git add. Where's the modal manager over here? Oh, we're in the git add dot t temp sparkles add navigation for node event detail modals. Cool. And now we're going to go back to down here. Right, we're going to reapply all of this stuff. See what happens. Is this still loading? So it seems to still be loading. We can click on things. Doesn't seem to be fully broken. I can go back. We don't have a back navigation over there. But if I go down here, I do have a back navigation on the events. So yeah, it's all a little bit ugly, but I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm not gonna like, it's pretty enough for me for now. All right, so this is an interesting part of the whole thing, which is I'm going to do the same thing again of storing all of this in UI.md. And then I'm going to add the text that we had before. So I'm going to add the upload from computer temp UI.md. Going to add this in here, and then I'm going to add the exact same prompt that I had before over in this. These scrolling things, I hate them. All right, context. So I'm going to add the context documentation as well. Why can't I copy paste? Jesus Christ. I'm going to add this, and I'm going to add 2 files. Recent. I'm going to add the long-term UI design document, and I'm going to add the, where is it? The long-term, where is this one here? It's in 17, okay. Upload, doesn't work. Why not? Yo. All right, well, you're really cool, ChatGPT. Failing to load subscription. This is just like, is this a sign I should just stop for the day? We'll see. All right. Well, not today. I don't know how much I want to continue vibing at this point. So did we apply now all these changes again? Yeah, right? Like we do have saved all of these. So we're going to go back to the previous chat actually. Improving TypeScript event things. Suggest better ways of defining the union type, or is this the standard way to do it? Because there's still like a shit ton of linter errors, right? Oh, so this is just undefined. And then no details. Still has quite a few, right? You're asking a great question. The user is asking current approach, single discriminatory, type safety, it's fundamentally type safe, explicitness, cons, verbosity, and also it has like these errors. Okay, well, so for example, how do I handle a type check error like in node detail modal line 166, attaching an image. Connection failed. So yeah, this is a really interesting, actually. Like, I'm not sure it's correct, but it really tells me more about TypeScript and React and all of these things. So the things I was looking at as I was doing this is the issue isn't the definition of the union type. The use memo finds a node created event, but the type system doesn't carry that narrow type information strongly enough into the JSX rendering event. Inline type guard check. The most straightforward and TypeScript idiomatic is to reassert the type within the JSX block where you access the specific thing. And okay, that's cool. So there we are. And is this guy answering back like, hello? Do you still show me my subscription error? You don't. That's nice. So if we go back, we add this document. Jesus, fuck. Okay, well, we still have the subscription error, so that's annoying. Let me see if we have other systems that were wonky. So go ahead and implement the described system. Let's see if this one actually already starts again, or if it still fails. Curious. This would be great. Nice. Cool. All right, cool. Yeah, this is nice. A discriminated union described as absolutely a standard way. Finding the event, losing the narrowing, fixing the anytype. Let's apply these two fixes. That's great. Okay. Now, is there any duplicated or very similar rendering code across the different modals and tables that could be merged? For example, also, since this is like similar, also I want the event list in the node detail modal to use the same type render as in the event table, and also show that detail column. So this is like starting to unify the different styles of the UI here. I'm annoyed that this is actually like blocked now, that I can't upload documents. See, it's not able to load my Google Drive either. All right, well, hopefully they fix it soon. So in here, I do want these guys to actually look like these guys, because this is a little bit prettier, right? Then I also want to have a column here that says what the event is about. Like here, the payload details, right? And so I'm curious to see, create constants and formatters. All right. This might be also just like a point to switch to 3.7. So did that actually change it? It didn't, right? Duplicate declaration and event table. Oh, it's still working. Okay. So here I'm kind of vibing. I am a little bit careful. I also kind of know a little bit how I want to clean this up, but I also don't know very much about front-end design. So mostly delegating it. I think I should have switched to Sonnet 3.7, just like trust its React knowledge a little bit more than Gemini. But since we're here and this hopefully works, and you can see from the diffs, I can tell we're not blowing the context window just yet. And we'll see if stuff starts to happen where it seems like it's starting to get lost, right? So this one I'm a little bit more skeptical about, like this kind of stuff. This is where it's starting to get lost in the sauce. So I'm not, yeah. So I think this, I'm not sure why it's complaining about this. Cannot find module helpers. Yeah, because it probably pastes them in the wrong source, right? Yes, I got a little bit lost here in the directories, which is annoying. And also a sign that, you know, we might have tried too much at once, which definitely happens too. So we're going to fix it by hand, just like usually I don't really do this. Update imports, yes. Oh, clever. And then, oh gosh, what you can't see is like everything's gotten so fucking laggy in here. Like I can barely scroll. So it's a lot of red. I also wonder if, you know, so it's a lot of unused values, which we can clean up later on. This might have been a little bit too much, right? This might have been a little bit too much of the good stuff, as you can see here. Duplicate declaration of timestamp. This is an event table. Format timestamp. Whoa, that's a lot of code. Do we have that somewhere else? Render payload details. At this point, I'm like really trying to see if I can salvage this, but I don't think I can. So at least it's rendering. Does the file even exist? Failed to resolve event constants. Event constants, TS. Okay. Events constants. So why is it not able to import that one? Cannot find module formatters TSX. Export function format timestamp. Yeah, no, this is good, right? I don't know, man. Oh, nice. So yeah, I was right. Like I kind of have trust in Sonnet at times. That's why I didn't want to give up all that quickly. Or in this case, it was Gemini, but in my head, it was like kind of Sonnet because I thought we were pretty close in terms of all that. Not sure what the linter's doing here, why it's like complaining so much, even though I reloaded all of this. Really not sure. Why is it not able to find that? Yeah, I don't know, man. Oh, you do have to remove the file endings. It's weird. I never know when that's the case or not. So I guess here we can do the same. Yo. So the render prompt messages is weird. Like I don't remember where this might have been going. See, this is so weird. Helpers, event constants. And then if I do TS here, it works. Yeah, I'm not sure why certain files need import with the file name and then others don't. My node data is never used. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing like such micromanaging here. See, now it's back. However, do we have the node details here? Yeah, that's nice. So it does show us the task details, and then here we have a column. And we have the graph, and then here we see the related events. We do have the nodes. Oh man, this is so pretty. This is so beautiful. I love it. All right, cool. So we did get somewhere that's not too bad. Let me actually, in this case, then finish the micromanaging. Type undefined is not assignable to string null. Does that fix it? Sure. Event type config assigned a type but never used. Oops. Render payload details never used. So that's cool. That's a lot of code to delete. Always nice to remove stuff that can confuse the model. Then we do have define never used. Status column map is never used either. All right. One less. Graph canvas, node props. Use dispatch is not used. Node props is not assignable to type. The property of type nodes. The type node data is not assignable to type my node data. Yeah, node my node data. All right, well, we're going to leave that one for now. Render prompt messages is not used. Huh. And RiaFlow. Create node map is not used. Cool. One less. So we really just like add the graph canvas and then the node event details. What's the one? It's the render prompt messages. That's fine. And then a custom node. Can remove that. All right, cool. So that leaves us two things. Use consistent badge details. And I'm going to see there's like a last thing is like update 04 long term if necessary. Here I can probably deal with some hallucinations for now, but we'll see. And we'll go to the to-do and refactor the styling of events. So that's cool. Implement details view for node result available. Show the metadata of the node created. Yes, we do have that. Make the graph canvas resize from the white font in the node detail modal, I think is also gone now that we have this consistently. This is like kind of intermediate. Show the NID in the events list. All right, so that's one step that we can do. Fix the white font, that's fixed too. Related should also, that's also done. Make the graph scrollable and filterable. Potentially add more state information about the results. So what did we change here? We removed a lot of lines. Yeah, I'm kind of fine with that. Just removing code mostly, right? Because Sonnet is like prone to adding code and Gemini is a little bit more restrained. And you can tell cursor still doesn't tell us that the context window is like full, but I can tell you this is overflowing. I mean, it's not flowing over, but it's like it's just too full to give good quality. All right, so we're going to commit that as well. Right here, git add ttemp art update to do. So how much do I want to continue doing for tonight? Add a go to node, go to event button in the models to switch views, scroll to the relevant place. Add a previous after navigation to the event modal. All right, well, we're going to skip to the... I like the little dashboard with currently executing steps and tool calls, and that's like kind of a fun vibe code stuff to do. So I'm going to add the context back again, right? It's like 04 event logging system, and then context 04 UI design document, and then I want to say I want to add a little dashboard with the currently executing steps and tool calls with information about what is going on. And then that's kind of all I want for now. And maybe I will just do some YOLO and switch straight to Claude 3.7 Sonnet without the thinking. And just show it like, yeah, make a new tab, make an additional tab in the main view, and then just see, let's vibe. Because that's like pretty independent of everything else, right? We have Redux Store, so it makes it easy to listen to currently executing steps. It could be doing like a selector, for example, right? And because it has these high-level documents, it's able to know exactly which codes, which files to look at directly instead of just searching files, right? Like, so it searched the files here, but it went straight to the files that are actually listed in the original long-term documents. And so that allows me, that's why I keep them pretty up to date all the time to reference the right files, and when new files are added to do all of that. Even though it can also be recreated after the fact, right? When we might want to do that with RiaFlow. Actually, that might be like a good side quest for, that might be a pretty good side quest for I'm going to use Scout actually. RiaFlow, GitHub. So here, so make a whole set of markdown documents about the RiaFlow library because it is lacking in documentation. So tutorials, oh shit. So tutorials, architecture, reference, walkthroughs. Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy to get that kind of for free. Can you please confirm if you're also... Okay, so it's not available yet. What were the two files? Because that probably design YAML preamble and then ttemp txt. So less temp ttemp txt. All right, so that's attachable. And then design YAML ttemp preamble. I think I added that to the vibes repo. Preamble. Yeah. So it should be in the recent documents. There we go. Here they are. All right, so this is going. This is going. What else can we do tonight? Kotlin MCP UI tool. No, I don't want that. Why is it even enabled? Accept all. Active dashboard. What the fuck is all of that? Use get events query. Oh, so I totally misunderstood all of this. Yeah, so we're gonna revert here and make an additional tab into the event view. I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna go to the preferences and disable my my MCP server. Right, like this one I'm actually gonna trash. Can I trash that? How do I remove it? All right, we're gonna go back that, make an additional tab to the event view, use the Redux store selectors to get the relevant events and group them. Oh, that's also something that I think we're missing right now that we might need to store on the server side first. So why am I not seeing anything here? Can't access declaration active nodes. Okay, use the Redux store selectors to get the relevant events and group them. I don't think the events have a related ID for the tool call and for the tool call and god damn it, LLM inference and search. Like, yeah, tool call is search, search is tool call. And then the fun thing that we could start adding, especially if we start moving to another infrastructure, is that this little dashboard is starting to have like status updates. And then in the meantime, let's see, this guy's still analyzing the documents. Could you please provide the, what the fuck? What is the error here? So it's able to read ttemp, right? Why is it failing? Retry. So I had this yesterday as well. It was like just keeping on failing. This guy, however, is going. So maybe I'll start a new chat. Gonna upload the two documents. Implement this system in Golang. Because this is probably going to... I mean, it's able to read the file, right? At least the UI is able to. All right, anyway, so dashboard. What is this? Use get events query. I don't want you to use the get events query. I don't want you to... right? It's like WS on message received, dispatch, graph, clear graph, update cache data. Oh, it's no. Okay, so it is correct. And I'm an idiot. And I don't remember how RTK query works. All right. Yeah, so that one's failing. This one, however, works. So that's good. Like we can just stop this one. So can we even delete them? Command-Shift-D. Confirm delete. How? Delete untitled jam? Oh my god, this is like the most horrible UI. Alright. No, but that's the one. Did I delete my tree sitter thing? Holy shit. That's not the one that I wanted to delete. Oh shit, 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 shit. Fuck. Yeah, that's like the fucking UI. What the fuck? Alright, because this is the one that I wanted. What the fuck? I am pissed. Like, it deleted it because of their weird focus stealing kind of thing. Oh, man. Well, I knew it worked once, so it probably hopefully works twice. Oh man, I'm annoyed because it was like already finished, but all right, anyway. Or did I do it in Manus? I probably did it in Manus. Oh yeah, I did it in Manus. Okay, cool. Then I didn't say anything. What did we add? The task graph and the dashboard? What the fuck? That's crazy. Alright, so the tool calls here are like kind of ugly. Active LLM calls, active steps. Tool invoked, tool invoked. Because if we look at the events, tool invoked, tool returned. The tool call doesn't have an event ID. The tool returned, tool invoked, right? C21CA, and then the tool returned is a different one. So how does it know that it matches? That's the code in the dashboard. And that was maybe a mistake on my part, to be honest. Step started, step finished, map, event payload steps, total nodes, total completed nodes. And then what is the completed LLM calls? Const key. Yeah. Okay, so that's indeed like something separate that we need to tackle. So I'm going to start a new chat over here and going to context, long-term document. We do need to store the step ID and finished and started. So I think that is working pretty well, is that in the metadata, the step number is obviously step 20, and then when the step finishes, it also has step finish, so that's easy to do. We want to track which LLM call result matches. Is it called LLM call result? LLM call completed. Completed matches LLM call started, so that we can more easily track request response. For example, in dashboard TSX, read all the files necessary to add it, especially in the backend. We're also going to attach the 04 in the UI and read all the files necessary, especially in the backend, to add these. Also look at adding an ID to match tool call started to tool call. What is it called? Tool invoked, tool returned. Tool invoked and tool returned. And we're just going to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Just write your ideas, don't write any code yet. So we're just going to do exploration of the code base using Sonnet 3.5, and then we're going to use a reasoning model to double shot it after that. I don't know why I didn't read the relevant files, right? Read the relevant files and then analyze. Oh, it's because I attached the dashboard TSX. God damn it. Man, it's so weird that it like doesn't read any files. That's so funny. What does the agent do? Can I like force it a little bit harder? What does GPT-4o do? Does GPT-4o start reading files first? Yeah. Okay, I don't know why Sonnet this time didn't do it, because it was like pretty reliable, I think, in the past. All right, so at this point, I might as well go straight to the reasoning model, to be honest. I'm going to go here, read the relevant files, and then analyze, and then we're going to do this. Yeah, this is the problem. Yeah, man, I don't know. What the fuck? Maybe it's time to stop. It's been like, what, 4 hours? So maybe we'll retry here. Just put on Sonnet Max. Maybe turn off the thinking. What are our little agents doing over here? Actually, I wonder if I should give Manus the same task, just to see, to compare. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna give Manus Gonna give Manus the same task as I gave Scout. I think Scout is significantly better, probably. But we'll see. All right. Does Manus have a changelog? I'm actually curious about what they're doing overall. Do you have any like kind of help page? All right. Manus will continue after reply. Personal use. All, including diagrams and screenshots and code examples. No. Write a lot of examples and take screenshots of them in a browser to make sure the documentation is correct. Be very extensive and detailed. Don't forget to write examples and take screenshots. All right. This stuff is great. Like I hope they, I mean, I'm sure they have the funding to support whatever they're offering us right now. But I'm really, really fucking impressed. And I guess I've done quite a few at this point, huh? So this one, I wonder if I can just delete it. All right, cool. Manus is going. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Holy shit, this is amazing. This is wild. I did it in Cursor, this stuff, and it took me like a couple of hours to get to somewhere, which I then abandoned. I don't remember where it is. This is like this is amazing. It just has like all the stamina, and then of course, when I of course I can just run many in parallel, right? Which I can't of me. All right, my cat is starting to to complain. So this might be a good moment. So generate an operation ID at call time. That's fine. Yes, that's good. For tool calls, add a unique tool ID, pass this ID in there, use the signatures to add the tool ID, front-end updates, event table TSX. All right, cool. Do it. So here I'm wondering about Claude 3.7 Sonnet. It's going to do too much, but we'll see what it does too much. I'm actually going to add more stuff here, actually. Go file analyzer. After you are done, create a web version served in Go as well to allow navigating a whole code base with your newfound functionality. Take some screenshots and write documentation. And then we're going to go here as well. So let's see at this diff, because it shouldn't be a very complicated diff adding like matching IDs over there. So call ID, event bus, call ID. As for the LLM calls, it creates one, and then on the response, it adds that. Event bus, tool ID does the same for the tools. Now update the database manager for the new correlation IDs. I'm not sure I want that actually, my dear Sonnet. I think you're starting to overstep your boundaries already. I am not sure I really am too happy about this, right? Yep. I don't think... Why is it creating the graph plans as well? This is my dear Sonnet. I don't want that. This is Sonnet 3.7. So we're going to switch to Gemini 2.5 Pro Max and then do it here. All right, so I'm pretty sure 3.7 is not going to touch the DB manager. It might. I'm not sure. I don't think it will, because this should be in the payload, huh? Hey. Are you complaining, my dear? Come, say hello. All right. All right. It added it to the event detail thingy here. It added it to the dashboard. This looks like a complex diff, but that's fine because that's exactly where we want it. Yeah, so Sonnet 3.7 was really like immediately going off the rails, which I was expecting, so it's not too much of a surprise. However, this requires us to relaunch the Python, right? So we're going to relaunch the Python. we're not loading the old tool stuff. We're loading this now. No events available. Oh, nice. It like added all of this stuff. That's so fun. I loved it. So if we do restart our backend, yeah, it's because of the breakpoint has moved. Why is this broken again? What happened here? An error occurred in the dashboard component. Is event type is not defined. Oh my god. Crap. So what is this? Active LLM calls arrays, map. How does it do it in the other one, in the is event? Whoops. I'm gonna add that. Properly use the narrowing is event type in dashboard TSX to avoid the type errors. So is this div still okay? This looks like a decent div. And then it should have like a second one in there that also looks clean. So I'm looking for things changing in there and not just this over there. So just looking for like clean divs and then not having like little sprockets of logic being destroyed. And we're back. We have a active step. We don't have an active LLM tool call just yet, which is weird. We're going to restart it. Oh, and then it doesn't refilter previous events, right? Yeah, it should clear active steps, tools, calls if the current run ID has changed, and I'm going to have to stop because my cat is going like apeshit. I might do some more later in the evening, depending on how tired I feel, because we have, right, like my whole life, I wanted to have like little clones of myself. And, you know, like legit, I have it now. Which is kind of crazy to say, right? But I've got these little clones building the stuff that I want to have in a way that's like not too dissimilar to how I would do it. It's fucking wild. So visit. Documentation, readme, examples, practical examples of the use cases. Okay. Did I have this earlier already? Maybe. So I've got my little clones, and so it might be a good idea tonight to go look at all the stuff I created, because I haven't even... I haven't even like looked at all the stuff to see if it even works. I've just like downloaded it, and it's like so extensive in what it does that I'm really excited to go look at it. I'm really excited. to see what's going to happen. All right, so this was decent. And I'll modify the message handler to clear all of these as well. And so we should have a LLM call started. We should have an LLM call started up here, over here. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So if I go back to here and then start. Holy shit, this cat. So I'm going to add some more stuff. Show finished, tool calls, LLM calls collapsed in the dashboard. And yeah, I'm going to go play with my cat. So see you later, folks. I hope this is going to be a really, I mean, it's starting to be a really fucking killer UI. I'm starting to really like it. So we'll see how all of this pans out. Yeah, man. All right. My cat needs me.